Hey, you're first on the agenda, by the way. Right, thanks, bye. He's on the way.
He had a copy of it early, but he's busy.
Let's see, John, you remember what Chris looks like, Jones? Could you see if he's out there by chance? Chris Jones from Ace? He's not here. We may bump that down the agenda a little bit until he gets here.
I was gonna say, he always starts his day off at the hub
He's
and ends it at Baskin Robbins.
They're gonna keep an eye out for him.
Yeah,
I will just bump it down because that,
Yeah.
a lot of that, other than the first two, are him under Chris Herron.
Well,
So
maybe he'll be here in a minute or two, I don't know.
yeah, I might go ahead and start with Mike and Duane. They're out there, aren't they?
I see Mike.
9:02.
Yeah, Mike's up there.
Okay. All right. We'll go ahead and call this session of Boyle Fiscal Court into order. This 11th day of August, 2020, and we'll start out with an invocation by Magistrate Cullen.
Most kind, gracious Heavenly Father, we are grateful to gather here today to do the business of this Boyle County, and we hope that you will have your insight into our hearts and our minds, that we will do things according to thy will. Heavenly Father, we ask that you watch over all of our first responders, our men and women serving this country, that they will be safe. Please put a special blessing on their families as well, that they know that when they're going out to do thy work to protect all of us, that they will be safe. Please help us through this COVID pandemic, that we might be able to find answers quickly, so that our county, our state, and our country and our world might be able to regain some normalcy, and that we might be able to protect those around that are sick, and that we might find some answers on what's needed in order to feel safe and be safe. Please bless those on this agenda, that they will be safe, and we appreciate them for what they do and their service. And we say these things in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
All right, next is the Pledge of Allegiance. I ask if you stand and we pledge allegiance to the flag.
Huh?
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you. And we'll go through, and I'll entertain a motion on the minutes that are in your packet.
I move we approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
Motion is made by Magistrate Gay to approve the minutes, seconded by Magistrate Cullen. And discussion.
Judge, on page 4, I'm confused because I was thinking that, where'd Chris go? I was thinking that the necessity of Parks Committee meeting was no longer, and the minutes read it that Chris is saying that he advises that we should continue. That's fine with me. It's just that the authority is different now, and you're on the...
The authority is different, but it was written into the agreement that we should still meet, especially since the county is giving $325,000.
I understand, yeah.
Just to
And
make
that's
sure
fine with me.
We
that
need
money,
to make sure that we're still being taken care of, and we just don't kind of like say, they'll be okay. They've got our best interest in
I would prefer and agree with him that I think the committee should stay in,
I'm good with that.
to
And
the
make sure that gets
operations of Parks and Rec.
Will you make sure that it gets in the minutes that he agrees with me?
No,
That's not
The
unusual.
sun came up in the
No,
east.
That's
sir,
not
it's
unusual.
It's just funny that he said it. And just a gentle reminder, if you ever do eliminate a committee, you need to do that by administrative code.
Thank you, yeah, good.
No, Tom, I think it's in our best interest.
I do too. It's just I was confused because Chris and I had had a conversation a week before I even mentioned it the last time, but that's good, that's fine.
Moving right along.
Is the chair not comfortable enough?
All those, and then no further discussion, all those in favor of approving the minutes, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, motion carries. Thank you for that. Next on our agenda is we're gonna pay some bills and approve those, and there comes Keagan, right on the schedule.
Good morning.
Good morning, good morning,
How's
Keagan.
everybody doing this morning?
All right, how you doing?
Doesn't quite have that glare that Larry used to.
That Lauren had? No,
All right, I'd like to bring forward the standing orders of the amount paid for health insurance, payroll, and utilities is $825,246.77. And then I'd also like to ask for approval on the bills ready to be paid on this day, August 11th, 2020, fiscal year 2021, for $2,150,492.22.
Move
Do I
to,
have any questions?
I move we pay the bills as presented.
Second.
motion made by Magistrate Gay to approve the bills, and we had a tie over here, so we'll go with Magistrate Short on the second to approve the bills. Discussion, questions, comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you,
Well,
Keith.
cool.
You too. All right, Miss Mary, we talked about budget transfers first and then cash transfers.
Everybody should have a copy of the budget transfers. There were just two. Real simple. If you have any questions about those, I'd be happy to answer those. So if you consider the budget transfers, the treasurer would appreciate it.
Make a motion. Second.
Motion made by Magistrate Short and seconded by Magistrate Sammons to approve the budget transfers. Discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Next.
Cash transfers, $50,000 from the general fund to the joint jail fund.
Okay? And
I'll make a motion to
Make a
approve
motion to
the
approve it.
second.
approved by Sammons and seconded by Magistrate Gay. Any questions on the cash transfers? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, motion carries. Thank you, ma'am. And next on the consent calendar. Looks like County Attorney Chris Herron is up the bat first. Resolution on Lakewood Drive.
Where's Duane at? I'd like Duane in here for this.
Duane, okay. I need somebody to get Duane for us. Tom, would you mind?
Sure.
We should have a little TV outside. So they know.
Yep. Yep. Wait a minute.
He was getting his truck license.
Morning.
Shoot. I know. There.
So Duane, while they're trying to find their stuff, I have questions about this, this resolution, and naming it right now. So if this was out there since 1989, why was it never named before?
Because there's no house that faces that street. I guess the developer just overlooked it and didn't name it. There's no house there, so there's no need for an address there.
So it's my understanding that the actual original purpose for that was, it was primarily to accommodate the two houses, 197 and 195, so they could have side entrance garages.
Who told you that?
Huh?
Who told you that?
I don't think that's relevant, it's just, that's
Well,
my understanding. That's where I got
okay.
it from a couple people on Overage.
Well, did that
so-
come from the developer?
No.
Okay. I don't know what reason the developer had for putting that street in there. I don't know why it went all the way to the property line, but it does. The right-of-way goes all the way to the property line, and it's, you know, it's paved up to a few feet short of the property line.
Yeah, it's like 5 or 6 feet short. I went out there.
Yeah, but it is platted all the way to the property line. Developers
what's
normally
the-
do that for future development.
Normally, but that's not the,
That's why I was asking who told you that, because the developer should be the one to be asked that question. They were the ones that had it
I
done.
don't even know if the developers has anything to do with it anymore, but, because I've been through several of the HOA meetings over there, and they have very little to do with the developer. The developers kind of wash their hands, I think, of the.
Well, they sold it all, so
Yeah,
yes,
exactly.
they're not
So-
involved at all. You're correct.
Anyway, so it's pretty much all dissolved.
But if we want to know the history of the street and why it's there, that would be the person to ask.
I'm just concerned that it's actually not, we normally don't cross property lines.
Yes, we do.
Okay, so what's the difference
Do you?
with the one on Wells Lane? I know there's a gentleman back there that's been trying to get through to like Bluffwood, but,
Well, I mean, yes, we do cross property lines. We have. And there are other cases we don't. If the
Okay.
developer chooses to develop a piece of property and he plats all the property into lots and leaves no right-of-way to an adjacent property, he can do that. That's his choice.
can he plot something he doesn't own? So if there's 5 or 6 feet difference between, so that road ends, and there's like 5 to 6 feet where the road ends and where that other person's property begins. So
The
can-
blacktop ends. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
So that person that owns that property, their property goes all the way to the blacktop?
No.
So there's a 5 to 6 foot gap
There's
from
a-
the property owner to the road, right?
That's not paved, yes.
It's not paved.
But it is
So there's-
platted. But it is
so-
platted to the property line as a street.
To the farm property line behind.
Yes. Yeah, I don't know the legal ramifications about that. I'm just telling you what's on the plat. Okay? And, you know, some developers, when they develop a subdivision, they see another piece of adjacent land, they say, I might buy that 3 or 4 years down the road, so I'm going to leave myself a means of continuing on into that property.
But they didn't.
But they didn't. But
They
they
didn't.
did plat it.
They platted the end of the road.
That's correct.
What's the problem with it? I don't see a
Yeah,
problem
yeah,
with it.
that's what I was gonna ask. What's the controversy with it?
Well, one of the problems that I've gotten from a couple of people in Old Bridge is that right now there's a person that's buying, that owns that farm back there, that's building a house. And so very well, they could actually start plotting off 1 acre parcels and building more houses. And Old Bridge has a pretty strict deed restrictions back there. And and this kind of goes, you have to go all the way through Old Bridge towards the back end to get to this. And this person's not, I mean, this parcel's not gonna be part of the subdivision. It's just gonna be it would, essentially, if they did that, it'd be a whole new development that wouldn't have Old Bridge restrictions to it. And so it kind of has concerns.
Would they want to break through and use that road?
That's the purpose of this, yeah. Is that they could actually, so right now, we would basically, the person that owns that property would be building a road that, just like we're doing with Hunt Farms, we would have to take over for one house, and then possibly more houses. And so that's kind of the start of this, is getting it, I mean, it's never been named since 1989.
Yeah, I think
Does
all
that
we're
farm have
doing
other
is naming
egress
it.
and ingress?
I'm sorry, what?
Does that farm have other egress and ingress that he could go with plots going somewhere else rather than using this road that we're talking about?
Possibly. I would have to say so, yeah.
I mean, it sounds like we've already accepted this road, we just never have named it, and so I don't see what the controversy is. We're just assigning the name for E911 purposes, and that's all this resolution is
But there's
doing.
nothing there. I mean, there's
That's
nothing
all
to E911.
That's all we're doing, isn't it?
There's for E911 is to say, okay, go to Lakewood, but there's nothing there. There's 2 houses, and both of those houses are actually on Old Bridge Road, if you look at it.
So an emergency call would be handled that way.
Right, so if 197 or 195 Old Bridge had a problem, they would go to 197 and 195 Old Bridge, not Lakewood Drive. So,
Yeah, Wilder requested this. Do you need to talk to him?
I mean, we could.
Would you be comfortable proposing that we table this until we get more information?
I think that'd be great, because this is kind of, this was
I
something.
just
we
don't
could
see
discuss a
the,
little more.
I just don't see the controversy in it personally, but, I mean.
I don't either. I don't understand what the big problem is.
Yeah, I mean, it's
We've already
just,
accepted the road, it's just naming
yeah.
the road
And our
different.
emergency
Naming it,
management
naming it's
director has
overdone.
asked it to be named, and.
I would like a little more time to talk to the HOA to see if they have a problem. So if we could table it for a session, that'd be great. I mean, it's been since 1989. What's the hurry now?
Count three,
I'm
go
fine
with
with
dice.
I would question whether the HOA really has a say-so in this.
Okay, well, can we get can we get the builders and get their perspective on it then? If it was actually meant to be a road, or if it was meant to accommodate those two houses?
What about the plot over here on the land? Do they have a plot where it shows this road?
Well,
Yes.
But not named.
It's
But
just
not
not
named.
named.
it's not-
Right, yes, I mean,
if you look at this, it really looks like it's just part of, like, the two people share a driveway. I mean, pull it up on Google Maps, whatever you want. It really is not like a long, I mean, it's short.
200 foot, 210 foot or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean.
Jason, would the two concerns be, number one, not complying with the HOA, and number two, increased traffic that would,
But
again,
it's
not comply with
potentially.
the HOA?
I
Potentially.
mean, it would definitely be increased traffic, but really can't, I mean, lots of places have subdivisions within, whatever.
Well, that's why I asked about the ingress and egress, because if he could be blocked off from using that, that would probably satisfy your neighborhood association.
Yeah.
Dwayne, look out and see if Mike Wilder happens to be out there.
If it's
I
already,
didn't
it looks
see
like to me if it's already plotted in there, it's road.
He was earlier.
I
But
don't,
not to the new farm.
Right, I mean,
I don't see how you can change anything on it.
this plat was recorded back in January 4th of '89, and this road's there. It just never has been named because nobody's lived down that road. But, I mean, now someone's purchased it, and, for 911 purposes, Mike Wilder asked to name for
Name
it,
it, yeah.
address, so 911 knows
I can understand
where to
that.
go. So, I mean, that's kind of the main
Well,
thing.
I mean,
I don't know that the homeowners association.
Well, this is probably a question for Duane. If the developer and the owner of that farm, where he's building his new house and wanting to make a subdivision, would he not have to get permission to use this unnamed road?
it's a public road.
No, it's a public road. And
It's a
public-
But it ends.
Yeah, it
It's-
ends, so I see what you're saying, but.
He will have to build his
I just-
road up to current standards. See, this road is a 20-foot wide paved road, no gutters, no curb and gutter, no sidewalk, just ditches. He will have to bring his road up to current standards, which is curb and gutter and maybe sidewalk. I'm not sure where we are on all that, but he will have to meet current planning and zoning standards with his street. Okay? But, I mean, it's a public, it's a platted right of way, so therefore it becomes a public right of way.
I say
It's not just a
this
driveway.
street does not have an easement out other than that. You know what I'm saying? A lot of farms don't have easements to another road anywhere. And that's why it's a dead end road, because it doesn't have an easement to go anywhere else.
Then he would have to get permission to connect, where there's grass now for 5 or 6 feet. And I'm not against it, I'm just, asking to satisfy the HOA.
I'm not familiar with the permission, and any permission would come from the county, I would think, not from the HOA.
But whether there's a fence there or not, his property line ends, and it's not paved.
Well, I mean, he would have to tie to the existing blacktop.
Anybody got any questions of Director Wilder?
Why doesn't he build that road first and then we start naming stuff or whatever? Like, I don't understand. I mean, for E911, there's nothing there. Like, there's no.
Wait till they
We
get a house.
address a lot of vacant lots,
Okay.
for the very reason that if I own a lot and it doesn't have an address, and I'm out there mowing, and the mower turns over on me, then somebody calls dispatch, they don't know where they're going, because there's no address.
A wildfire could be another example.
Yeah, anything. My office has to give the gentleman a 911 address. I mean, that's what I have to do. He bought the property, So he has to have a 911 address. So this is the reason for the whole street name to begin with. And it was adopted back in what? When the
89.
original.
89, I guess.
I don't know, that's why I don't.
89.
I talked to planning and zoning and, you know, they were fine with it, so.
I don't see what's the problem. I don't
Well,
understand what
that,
they're.
my-
Well, the problem is, I mean, if he gets this up to code and just starts to build a few houses back there with smaller lots,
Well, then we got a different
Yeah.
problem.
then you've got, you know what, that's what Jason's saying is,
So, I mean, but that's where, again, that doesn't have anything to do with the naming of the road.
I don't think so either.
That
I
doesn't
don't
have
think
any-
it does either, because the road
Because
is
the
there
road is
already.
there, and
Yeah.
so that doesn't, that's a whole different issue. That doesn't have anything to do with the placing a name on it.
That's right, let's
He
just
does
prove
anything
this.
less than- If he plants anything less than an acre, he's going to.
That's a planning and zoning issue
Exactly.
that then would come back to this body. The assigning of a name to an already dedicated road does not have anything to do with the planning and zoning process.
But to answer the question about smaller lots, if they build on anything less than an acre, they have to do a zone change.
Yeah, okay.
It goes to the planning
Yeah, I knew they'd have to go
process,
through the
it comes back to the
process.
fiscal court.
Which that's still possible, since it's not connected to Old Bridge.
Yeah, all landowners have that right and possibility. That we can't limit his ability to develop his land. He has to go through the process to do that, and we have a process in place for that to occur. But if he purchased that land, he has that person has that right to.
The
Develop
dwelling
within
that
the
this
process.
individual is building will fully exceed any restrictions that the HOA would have. I've seen, I mean, it's a nice home, very nice.
That's fine, we're talking about, well, any other possible homes. I mean, this has been, I mean, it's the old driving range. It's been a hot topic for about a year now.
Well,
So,
you know, again,
There's
like I
been-
say,
but see, there's-
I'm for 911 purposes. I gotta give
I
the man an
understand that.
address if he has an
Well,
emergency. That's
they
my
hold
only.
you in on this one.
I really don't have a
Where did
dog in
Lakewood
the
Drive
fight.
come
You
up
won't
with?
get
Where
down
did we-
to it.
Jason, I don't think it'd make any difference whether we name the road or not. If he wants to build,
I understand
comes
that.
to-
he's still gonna build. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Call a question, Judge.
Well, the other part is there's some I think it's still listed as agricultural. So they're worried about multifamily.
Those are all planning and zoning issues.
I understand that.
Question's been called.
Well, I'll make the motion.
Okay,
We haven't had a motion yet.
all right, let's entertain a motion in a second.
I'll make the motion to approve the resolution to
I second it.
name it.
Motion
Lakewood
made by
Drive.
Magistrate Gay to approve the E911 naming of the resolution, which is number 20.08.11, seconded by Magistrate Sammons. Now we can discuss it.
Where did the Lakewood Drive name come from?
That was their choice.
The builder?
Property owner.
Which that is not unusual. We've done that several other times.
I'm asking questions.
Yeah.
Call for the question.
All right, question has been called. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign.
Aye.
One, opposed vote. Is that correct, just one?
Yes.
Okay, one opposed vote, and, so the motion to name, Lakewood Drive or whatever is, the resolution number 20.808.11 is passed. All righty?
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Duane.
And we got that, yeah, we'll line through that. Does that work, an initial? Okay. Let's do that. Thank you, gentlemen.
Yes, sir.
All right, next. Ordinance on, second reading, is that correct?
Yes, so this is now the second reading of the Rick House permit, which I've prepared. We read last time, or we talked about it, and so I've got that prepared. Planning and zoning, Steve Hunter helped me as well with this. And I actually prepared a summary as well,
Which is what you're gonna read for us on the second reading?
which I can do that. Trying to, the internet's not working very well. Let me see if I can pull this up really quick.
You don't have a hard copy?
Maybe not of the summary.
All right, I'll read it. Yeah, I gave a copy to, or I emailed a copy to Ms. Nagy. It's Ordinance 920.21. This is the ordinance adoption summary. The purpose of this ordinance is to amend Article 5, pages 5-4, 5-36, 5-37, 5-38, and 5-39 of the Boyle County zoning ordinance to allow in the unincorporated area of Boyle County craft beverage or distilled spirit storage in the agricultural district only after obtaining a conditional use permit from the Board of Adjustments. Agricultural tracts must be at least 20 acres in size. The maximum size of any single structure shall not exceed a footprint of 40,000 square feet, excluding stairwell and open docks, and shall not exceed 60 feet in height. All structures shall be a setback a minimum of 200 feet from property lines and shall be at least 500 feet from any residential use district. There shall be an additional 1,000 feet distance restriction from churches, daycares, schools, and certain other entities. At least 50% of the property shall be dedicated to agricultural uses as defined in KRS 100 and or preserved as a conservation area. Please see full ordinance for all restrictions. I just have it. Be it ordained by the Fiscal Court of Boyle County, Commonwealth of Kentucky, this ordinance is adopted pursuant to KRS 67 in that it was introduced on July 28, 2020 and given final reading on August 11, 2020. And said ordinance shall be in full force and effect upon signature, recordation, and publication summary pursuant to KRS 424 and KRS 67.
I move we approve second reading of ordinance number 920.21.
Motion has been made to approve the second reading of ordinance number 920.21 by Magistrate Keagan, seconded by Magistrate Cullen. Discussion. There being none, all those in favor of approving the second reading on the ordinance signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, gentlemen, for that. We're moving along, as we say. Ordinance for Energize Kentucky and Pace. I do have, I've asked Mr. Chris Poole, I think, who is here now, to come in and discuss and answer any questions regarding the Energize program, okay? And the last three things on go ahead, if you don't mind, John. Is the Energy Project Assessment District Interlocal Agreement, the EPAD Program Administration, and the ordinance. This will be a first reading on this ordinance. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning.
Morning.
On the agenda today, Chris, we have the ordinance for Energize Kentucky Pace. And do you have a summary on that one, Counselor? We'll let him read the summation on the ordinance, and then we'll talk through a couple other things on your presentation for the benefit of the entire court.
Okay.
Okay?
Yes, to summarize it, because otherwise it's like 5 or 6, 7 pages. So. This would be Ordinance 490.0. The purpose of this ordinance is to establish an Energy Project Assessment District, EPAD, program pursuant to KRS 64.205 to 65.209 to advance the conservation and efficient use of energy and water resources within Boyle County, Kentucky by allowing energy projects to be financed by assessments imposed upon the real property being improved through energy projects in the private sector. Said ordinance establishes the boundaries and lays out all guidelines and procedures for which owners of real property may petition the county for participation in the program, designates the Boyle County Sheriff as the collector of the assessment, and authorizes an interlocal agreement for implementation and administration of the program. Be it ordained by the Fiscal Court of Boyle County, Commonwealth of Kentucky, this ordinance is adopted pursuant to KRS 67 as it was introduced on August 11th, which I won't go any further because it's going to have a second reading on August 25th. That would be my first reading.
Now, procedurally, would the court prefer to hear the discussion on the Assessment District Interlocal Agreement and the EPAD Administration Agreement before you vote on the first reading of the, ordinance.
And we will certainly have discussion, because I've got, this hit me as something that's more governmental intervention with private sector, and I've got a lot of questions, so if we can have that at the end, I think that would be the appropriate way, because my questions might be answered.
Okay, so, Chris, let's do this. With the court's, at the court's pleasure, let's enter into discussion about the Project Assessment District Interlocal Agreement.
Okay, all right. So again, Chris Jones.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I didn't introduce you. I apologize.
That's all right. Yeah. So Chris Jones, I'm the program manager for Energize Kentucky, which is the program administrator for all the EPADs in the state that have an active project, with the exception of Louisville. I was kind of part of the small working group back in 2015 when the statute, the EPAD Act of 2015, got passed, and since that's kind of all I do every day. Although this might be new to some of you, I've been doing this again for 5 or 6 years. Just
And where's your office located?
What's that? Yeah, so we have a satellite office in Lexington, but then also in Cincinnati as well.
Main office is in Cincinnati.
Main office is in Cincinnati. Yes.
Okay.
So with that being said, I will, sit here and claim I am an expert in PACE financing on a couple of the National Trade Association boards. So very, very comfortable in PACE. So with that being said, working kind of backwards from the interlocal and then the program administration to the actual EPAD district that has to be created for a property owner ultimately to apply for PACE financing for an energy related project. So the interlocal, so let me start this way.
Excuse me one second.
Yes.
You mentioned energy, but my great concern is water. So are they always talked in tandem in this project?
So what happens is across the country, each state that passes the state legislation actually specifically includes which type of improvements are eligible. And so there's a lot of states that went before Kentucky in 2015 that only included energy efficiency or renewable energy improvements like solar panels, but Kentucky actually included water conservation. So
and you have jurisdiction over both equally.
So so energy efficiency project like a like a heating and cooling system would apply. Solar panels under the renewable energy, or if like an office building or a facility did some kind of improvement to reduce their water consumption, that would also qualify. And so
this has nothing to do with flowing water. And
No,
This is energy.
See, this is what popped up in my mind, and I immediately thought of our Commissioner of Agriculture and wanted to make a phone call to him to see what might happen with, I've got land here, which I don't, and Jason's got land here, and I block off the water from him. It has nothing to do with that.
Nothing.
No.
So farm to farm, there's no
Nothing.
intervention.
No.
This is like flow restriction to provide you water service, but to save on your energy conservation use of it. Could be something like a flow restrictor.
That answers a huge question of mine.
So I think to kind of start there is, the EPAD district is only for private property owners, reducing their, again, water consumption, energy consumption, or again, renewable energy. So this is just, one single private property owner who's requesting to, finance these particular type of improvements.
Good.
And so,
That one statement probably answered a whole lot of
A lot of my concerns.
Yeah.
I have a lot of rural district.
Yeah, sure. Understand. With that though, is that an agricultural property owner, certainly can apply for PACE financing as well. If they have, again, want to put solar up at their farm or some kind of water conservation project, again, on their property. I think the other way to kind of think about this too is, again, it is a single private property owner who's applying for the PACE financing, and then all those improvements do have to be behind the meter. Okay. So if that kind of helps, I think, as well. Yeah. So with that being the case, kind of get back into the interlocal, is that so when a private property owner is requesting this, and this is what is also very unique about this type of financing, because although it is special assessment financing, you're more familiar with special assessment financings for sidewalk improvements or sewer improvements, those type of things that affect dozens, if not hundreds of property owners. Yeah, this is using special assessments to assist just one private property owner and nobody else. When this is all kind of set up, that one private property owner essentially is coming forward to petition or request that special assessment as the means to repay the PACE loan for those improvements. And so then once the special assessment would be requested and approved by you as the fiscal court, then comes kind of this interlocal agreement where we're just stating everybody's role with regards to that actual private, again, special assessment, and who is number one, kind of recording the special assessment, who then is also responsible for collecting the special assessment. So in this case, the sheriff, we'd also spoken that as a program, we've actually had some counties and some sheriffs that actually didn't want to collect this, and so we do actually have a third-party servicing option that is there. But in this case, we're requesting that the sheriff actually
Has he already been included in discussions?
Have we spoken with all of our agencies that are included in this interlocal agreement to have a conversation about how the flow of information would go? Have we had meetings with them?
So we have not. Yeah. So from our last meeting, yeah, I was assuming that internally you would have done that, or at this point. So.
But I think it's important that we understand their procedures internally, so we know where we're going. But just my personal opinion, and I'm the treasurer because I'm involved in the receiving, but also setting the tax rate and understanding the role, because you have in certain documents that the sheriff creates the bills, but in Boyle County, those bills are done through the clerk's office to the bill company gut. So that's why I think there needs to be some conversation to fine-tune some of these documents to Boyle County personally before we create a mess that everybody's trying to figure out how somebody else is explaining to us how we need to do our job.
Well,
So
I wish I had thought
directive
about this
as-
before we had this meeting, or I wouldn't have asked him down here. It was my fault, but Mary's right. But
I don't know. I mean, this is something that you use all over through the Commonwealth, though. This is a Kentucky.
There's not many people that are doing it, though. There's
18 or
small
20.
amount. And is there any small counties that are doing it?
So Morgan County, I think, would be kind of a similar
The
one as we
closest
spoke
one.
about. Yeah, kind of last time, but. But whether it's, frankly, a Morgan County size county or a Campbell County, there, in northern Kentucky, I think what is on the documents, and again, fully understand, if this needs a kick to another meeting, kind of go. But the only thing I would point out, though, is that with regards to the responsibilities, of the sheriff in the agreement, is just they're collecting in their normal process. So whatever.
Conversation in our previous meeting, and I understand that too. There was also additional conversation that since there's only one tax bill involved today, is it feasible that, somebody else issues that tax bill as part of the rolls and don't put the onus? I mean, we do bank, out of my office alone, I do bank franchise taxes, which I issue tax bills to the banks. I think we just need to talk about, instead of being strong-handed, just have conversations so we all know
I have
where.
a concern why we're talking about this now. I mean, we had a meeting, a week and a half, 2 weeks ago?
Well,
And this
several
is
of us
something-
have no idea what this
I understand,
is.
but this has been in our packets for a week, and so.
No.
This keeps happening a lot.
I got it Saturday.
Huh?
I got it Saturday.
Well, no, this packet is available for you to pick up on Thursday. We get a notice every week that it's available to pick up on.
Well, that's not a full week either.
Huh?
But
I said 5 days, but what, this keeps happening a lot where we're having meetings and we start bringing up questions about stuff that's been in our packets or stuff that we should maybe be having with General Hunt or someone else instead of doing it the day of these meetings. If you have questions, raise them before the meeting. Our meetings are 3 hours less if we do that, and B, this gentleman traveled from Lexington, Cincinnati, or whatever to give this program, thinking that we are all prepared to hear it, and we're not, and it's embarrassing. So these questions need to happen before the meetings, not at the meetings.
I think I'm embarrassed due to lack of my knowledge specifically about the collection process or the issuance of the tax bills, and that the sheriff would, I don't know why he would be encumbered greatly by doing what he normally is doing anyway.
Right.
That's probably my fault. I didn't understand there was a variance there.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know if the other counties use guts because they send all their tax bills to a third party as well. So I just think that a conversation with our other elected officials who are actually doing the work would be appropriate and respectful.
Agreed, but
I'm gonna have to disagree with Magistrate Cullen about asking questions. If all of us had those questions, the judge wouldn't be able to do anything else because we're all gonna be coming in and asking questions. This meeting is set up to discuss things that are on our agenda for today.
I'm well aware of that.
That's what it's for.
I'm well aware of what the meetings are for. What I'm saying is that these things need to be cleaned up and asked prior to the meeting.
I totally disagree.
I do too.
These are very specific legal documents. I had a very erroneous idea about water. My first question, which I didn't ask, was ask CAECO what other counties there are. And now I find out there are 18 or 20 counties out of 120 counties. And we aren't going to bother the judge one by one coming in here and taking up his time when his elbows are up like this with paper on each side. We have the right and we have the obligation as elected officials. And today, for the first time, I see a figure of 140,000, and I don't know who's paying them.
What's the benefit of the county, simply put it?
Yeah, so with regards to the PACE financing, it is essentially extending or allowing the private property owner to access long-term financing for, again, these energy efficiency or water conservation related improvements. I know when we originally spoke there 2 or 3 weeks ago, you're familiar as a government entity where I think you said you'd had a performance contract done for energy improvements on your own building.
Shouldn't this go through the conservation district?
Oh, no.
No.
No, have nothing to do with it.
Yeah, I was just explaining, so governments, have always had access to longer term, such as like a performance contract or something similar. The private sector has never had that ability before PACE financing has come along. And so the special assessment nature of this is what gives the capital markets the security to provide a property owner. And so I assume, everybody's aware that, Meggitt Industries is the one who really, ask about, the availability of PACE financing because they're wanting to do a large solar array on their property.
This helps them in over and above what local financing's scope or box of lending might be. Say a local bank might, John, and feel free,
This is several tools in what I know about it. One of them is it takes a company like Meggitt, it gives them a way to introduce energy efficiency to their operation. Well, it's like we did. We sold bonds to do it. They have financing available to help them in their endeavor. This becomes economic development in that when we sell or attempt to invite somebody to come, we can say, we're part of this program and you can add in energy efficiency to your building, which a lot of folks want to do. Now, there's another thing that's involved that I find attractive, but that's because of my background, is that someone like a bank here could participate in the program, which allows them to become more profitable, allows them to get some interest, allows them to participate, and it gives kind of a home field to where they can help out with those who create jobs here. So to me, it's an economic development issue as much as anything. Plus, it saves energy, which we all agree we want to try to do that. So that's the way I view it.
In an ideal situation.
Am I close?
Yeah, no, you're very well said, yeah.
In an ideal situation and moving forward in the future, and I recall this and challenged me on this, attorney and Mary, I think our administrative code allows us individually to petition the judge for a special called meeting, which is announced, and then we have all this settled out previous to impose it. Well, actually, in a meeting that I understood took place, and I think only one of us, other than the judge, was there to hear it. And if it was in my district and had the water that I thought it was, I'd immediately petition the judge for a special meeting so we would all, I don't even know when that meeting took place, but if we'd all been there, a special called meeting, publicly announced, I wouldn't have any questions today. But this is a serious matter that I misconstrued to affect water as it flows. I know what happened in Colorado when the EPA, of all things, you got lousy acronym there, but the EPA, when it polluted the river because they were angry at the miners and they killed the whole river for 3 or 4 years. Yeah. So all that goes through my mind with more than half the county being rural and being mine. I just had to ask all these questions, but it could have been obviated had we had that announcement and all of us had been in that meeting.
Tom, you understand it now. Does it make doesn't it make it really simplified?
I'm 99%
Do you understand?
there.
This is not real difficult, folks, in my mind.
And my
I agree with
comment was
that.
only the fact that if you don't know what PACE is, or and this goes with all of us. I mean, I've done the same thing where I didn't understand something was on the agenda. I didn't wait till the day of the meeting.
I didn't have the agenda to know about it.
I think this
Man,
is
when
an
did you
internal
email me,
thing
Jen,
that Chris
When did you
doesn't
email
have
me?
to be a part
I
of.
emailed about everything on Thursday, and they were available for pickup. Some went out on Thursday and some went out on Friday.
So Ann is actually emailing these whole things to us as well. But my question is, Thursday, I called General Hunt, just let me speak. I called General Hunt on a Saturday if I had a question about something that was on the agenda, saying, hey, explain this to me, because we're expected to vote on something where we're educated on something. We really need to be educated prior to the meeting, which is why I'm saying we need to be asking questions ahead of time so that if you're gonna vote on something, you really need to know what PACE is. And you've learned a lot just in the last 10 minutes, and General Hunt probably could have cleared that up.
And be
That's all
assured,
I'm saying.
Chris, this
be
is the first
assured
reading.
that in the future, if there is something
This is
of
the first
this
reading, so the
consequence,
second and
I
final
will
reading
use
is
our
2 weeks.
administrative code, and I will ask
We
the
could have
judge
first
if we can
reading
have a
and get
special
all
called
that.
meeting, so that his second trip is not wasted, which it's not going to be, by the way.
No, this isn't waste time either. If I could just go back actually to answer actually with regards to the interlocal and the
Okay,
it's
sorry about
really
that.
to kind of answer the fine details really of the sheriff. And
I had it all
so
right.
what happens is that, as you're aware, most counties, from the sheriff's collection, really logistically, they do it, half a dozen different ways, right? There's some counties that literally, from my understanding, send out literally a postcard. And so what happened is that in the EPAT Act, 2015, it states something to the effect of, shall be collected in the same manner as regular taxes.
Sure.
Well, the first time we were approached with, we send out, our taxes on a postcard. How are we supposed to get an EPAD, bill or a line item on, something like that?
That was my question and concern. That's the only reason while
Yeah.
I was sitting in bed last night reading this, I'm thinking, can Guts even do this for this group?
And what happens there, though, is, and really what every sheriff's office really kind of has done, including all the way up to, Louisville,
Okay.
Jefferson County, is that they actually just produce a supplemental bill for the EPAD. Just so it's not mixed in with all the logistics of kind of what you're saying, because, we're not talking that there's going to be thousands or hundreds of
and I
these. There's a
understand that.
small
But I
amount.
just want to make sure that
Absolutely.
they're on board, and if it's going to be a supplemental bill, if they collect it, they're going to keep a portion of it. So do we want to let them keep a portion of it, or would it be easier to be originated in a different office? So that eliminates that additional fee? I don't know. These are questions I think just, if we could approve the ordinance and, the philosophy as a whole, but I just think that there's some fine tuning with the administration agreement and the interlocal agreement that may be able to come at the next meeting.
I'm almost positive that was brought up, though, because I said it would be a great tool for the sheriff to actually.
I just think we need to talk to them about if they're able to, if they want to, and are interested in, instead of mandating. I'm all about working together.
We're definitely gonna have to fine tune it because the county clerk and the sheriff are gonna have to decide what kind of fees they're gonna charge.
Right.
They might not, because the loan that exists is gonna exceed like probably much what property is worth or whatever, so you know, it might not be based on a percentage necessarily, there might be like a certain mark, you know, that it cannot exceed X number of dollars, because then it's not gonna, you know, if they're gonna take out regular fees and so forth like they do for property tax now, it's not gonna be very beneficial or advantageous of Megan or someone else to do this type of thing, because they're gonna have to pay like an exorbitant amount of fees and so forth. It's not gonna be worth it.
What's up to them?
So they're gonna have to like get together and discuss like what they're gonna charge, what's gonna be the max.
So this kind of the first steps of it.
Judge, this is just a request for the first reading, and we have Chris here to answer questions. And there's maybe some things that need to be smoothed out, but we got 2 weeks to do it, so I'd make the motion that we go ahead, and I recommend that we pass this first reading, and then work out the details. And then we come back, and if we need to adjust on the second reading.
I don't know that he needs to be here for the interlocal or whatever, but.
And that's fine. That's what my job is. Make sure everybody's comfortable and answer any questions, because again, this is all new.
Here's what I would suggest that we do, hearing everybody's voice. If you're comfortable with the ordinance, understanding what has been said so far, we'll have a motion and been seconded to do the first reading, which has been read, on the ordinance, on the interlocal agreement and the administration agreement. We'll have a complete special called court session between now and the 25th. We'll bring him back and we'll have all that discussion.
Why?
So everybody's on the same sheet of music. To understand, we'll have the county attorney in here, being the county clerk and the sheriff and everybody else.
It's the theory of what it allows people to do and get financing to help them with a very big project.
Absolutely.
But the mission is for the betterment of everything.
Absolutely.
It's an economic development tool that both Jody Lassiter and I can mention a lot of other names.
Marty was here for
Marty Gibson was here and said this is a great tool for the county to develop economically.
And I would also just add, into it as well, is that so once the, local, government such as yourself would actually approve a special assessment, request from a private property owner, there is no financial risk of the county. So for some reason, the property went foreclosed or bankrupt, the government is not on the hook at all for any, overages as far as fees. As is stated, in the agreement, it is upon, the program is asking the, the sheriff and the, prosecuting attorney to, go through the, tax collection, foreclosure, just the same as it was any other property tax. But I just wanted to make the point that there's no financial.
We have a motion on the floor made by Magistrate Kaywood. It was seconded by Magistrate Short. Now we can discuss it, okay?
Yep. And don't be, like, just because there's only 18 counties doing this, don't be afraid of that. This is something where this could really make us shine over.
Oh, I think so too.
The other 102 counties out there that don't do it, because it's like, hey, you've got PACE availability. We're going to really look to Boyle County. So that this is actually a plus that not everybody's doing. It actually makes it from an economic standpoint. I don't know. Local financial institutions could go to a certain level of what they're comfortable with. PACE allows that level above for an economic development situation. And it frees up capital for those businesses that don't. I mean, this is a big undertaking for Mega. And this also gives us a great opportunity with Mega to allow them to expand even more, which is what we want.
Well, this is a big undertaking in every way, shape, or form, and I'm going to come around the barn one more time to ask, when was a meeting held where at least one magistrate or more were there? Because how did we have time to know the intricate details of 3 documents with deep legalese in them by getting it, if we picked it up on Thursday, versus having being privileged to be at that meeting? What was the date of that meeting?
What was the date of our finance committee?
Pardon me?
2 or 3 weeks.
And again, one of you who was there could have easily petitioned for us to have a special called meeting, and we wouldn't be taking this gentleman's time this way.
For every, I mean,
This is, you just said it's a very
there's
big
jail stuff
project.
that I'm not involved in, that you guys meet in. I'm not gonna have a special call meeting for every jail issue that comes up, or every committee that meets. That's silly.
Let me
Our
ask-
calendar would be
This was
full.
bigger than that.
It's not, you're making it bigger.
Let me
That's
ask
the problem.
that.
This is a very easy concept of economic development. It gives people the ability to have a finance option.
We could avoid this in the future.
Outside of, a traditional loan that allows them to expand in our own community. And I understand your concerns because of the rural side of it. But again, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, if you had a question of exactly what PACE was, the phone is there.
It was a whole lot
I'd
more
like to
deep
call the
and detailed
question
than
on
that.
the motion.
I agree.
Okay, question's been called, discussion's been had. All
My
those-
apologies, sir.
All those in favor of approving the first reading of the ordinance as read, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Passes unanimously, the ordinance. What about the proposal for future discussion as it relates to our other elected officials on the interlocal agreement and the EPAD program administration agreement for $140,000? Now, what is the $140,000? I have to ask.
I don't know where that, if somebody's talking about 140,000, I don't know where that number is. I don't see.
Yeah,
Where did that
don't-
come from?
I have no idea either. I don't.
It was on the revision.
I don't remember.
The revision.
The revision of the agenda.
Yeah, it says EPAD agreement, administration agreement, 140,000.
This is it, really.
Oh, no, that was the budget for the EMS,
Okay,
defibrillator.
strike that.
Okay.
That was next to my,
I make a
I'm
motion to
sorry.
go ahead and go on interlocal agreement.
Sorry.
You know what, okay, but I thought.
Second.
I read what you wrote, okay.
So I have a real quick question if I don't see you again in another future meeting. I'm going to talk about, just real quick on the program administration agreement.
Yes.
Because we talked about records, and since this would be, the first one would be a county project, and it says very specifically that you all are the official holder of all the records, and that we would have to make an appointment with you. So we issue bonds for a lot of different agencies, and when we issue bonds at the very end of everything, they give me this lovely big binder, or, it used to be a CD, but a jump drive now.
Yeah.
And it's a wonderful thing, and to have on, in the drawer, so, because we have an official request for an open meeting, open records, there's an official that is responsible for having the keeper of all those official records.
Yes.
So could we add something to the effect like the program administrator shall forward a copy of the permanent file to the county upon the execution and delivery of the project?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely, and
Thank you.
that's what happens as
Okay.
well. So I guess a couple of things to that is
Well,
that
it says very
certainly.
specifically, you all are holder of the records, you would give us certain pieces,
From
and
both
we would
those
have to
offices.
make an appointment with you to get to those records. That's what the agreement says, so I just wanted
Okay.
to be able to think that.
Yeah. So
Thank
yeah.
So that
any-
is would be forthcoming.
Yeah, I just wanted to make
Yes.
sure that that would be okay
Yeah.
with them.
And just to explain too, yeah, so, so obviously then once the special assessment actually gets approved and then is recorded
Right.
with each project, that obviously, the recording document, approval document, is part of that,
Understand.
assessment, right? But then, yes, you're talking kind of the whole,
Of all of that.
application files, all that
Yeah,
kind of thing.
yeah. Just like I do for a grant
That,
application, we
that
have it from
absolutely.
front to back.
Yeah, that, so that is definitely the process for every project that's approved.
Okay.
But I think, yeah, kind of what that generally is kind of saying is that, as the program, we also keep the record. So,
Yeah.
since this is, an open, an open records, request, yeah, if someone ever had a, request, as the program administrator, we hold those records as well
Right.
in case anybody
But if
wanted to.
something happened to your firm, or, in 10 years, and this has
Yes.
a longer term to it,
Yes.
and we don't get those records, then we have a problem.
Yeah,
We have a
I
problem.
understand, but the answer is yes, we
Thank
definitely
you. Thank
give
you.
you those, that whole
That's-
transcript,
that's
right? The whole
okay.
transcript is what
Perfect.
you're.
In this discussion, we have a motion.
Well, and actually, let me back up real quick,
Okay.
if you don't mind. And I was hoping, hopefully
we
Chris will
voted
get
on
back in here, but,
Something else.
I guess my question is, do we need to have do we have to have a first and second reading on the interlocal agreement and on the administration agreement, or can that just be done at one time? because I guess in addition, I know we had a motion and I actually did second it, but I would recommend that if we can, let's just finish this all up at the next meeting. So we've had our first reading of the ordinance today. We'll have to have the second reading. I don't think we need a special called meeting of all of us.
Not now, we don't.
I would just encourage the judge and the treasurer and Magistrate Ellis, if he wants to be there, to meet with the sheriff,
The
county
PVA, the clerk.
PVA, and go over the interlocal agreement with them and get
And
everybody on the
approve
same
that next
page.
time.
And approve that next time and the second reading of the ordinance, and then we'll just finish it
That
up
sounds
next
like a
time.
plan. We really, I don't believe we need anything but a phone conversation telephonically with Chris. He doesn't have to make another trip down here.
Right.
To do that,
Right.
okay?
So I
And
think
we can
that
do
that
that and seal it all by the
Right.
25th.
Right.
The 25th.
Exactly. So I would recommend that. And then I do want to say that in defense of our process of getting the packets to everybody, and in defense, Ann doesn't need me to defend her, but I do want to, it's gotten kind of crazy here for a minute. I helped deliver the packets, and I'm glad to do that and happy to do that. I got tied up this week. I didn't get the packet picked up until Friday afternoon, and so I didn't get it to Tom's mailbox until Saturday morning. So I just want to make sure everybody's clear that I'm happy to pick, and I normally pick the packets up on Thursday, and I'm happy to deliver those, and that's not an inconvenience or a problem at all. I'm glad to help and do that. But I did want to let everybody know that
We can't
This
back,
was a-
we can't back up our preparation of
This
the
is all
package
your
for the
fault.
court.
I know, right? So I feel like
You can,
We
I feel like
could.
this whole packet thing.
There's always
is,
gonna be
we're
some
gonna
changes.
deduct it out of your salary.
right, exactly.
It's it's not your job.
Well, we
It's-
are
it's-
trying to
But I'm happy to do it,
salary,
and I'm
not
glad
your
it's
job.
not an
I told Ann
inconvenience. So
just
I
to
do want
mail
to state
mine,
that.
mail mine each week.
I just
I
want to
get
say
it
that's
Friday or
where.
Saturday, don't worry about it.
That's
Okay.
the way it's supposed to work. That's the way it's
It
supposed
does.
to work.
It's been doing that for 20-some years.
So
I've never
anyway,
missed one yet.
So,
now I hope we're ready to move on.
did you
Moving right
rescind
along.
your second?
Yes.
Yeah.
What time we gonna have lunch?
All right. So that will be our plan of attack going forward. We have a first reading on the ordinance. The next court session that is scheduled on the 25th, we'll have the second reading, and we'll have the vote on the interlocal agreement and the EPAD program administration agreement. The discussion, everybody is invited if you want, but I plan to bring the clerk, the PVA, the sheriff together in this room and talk about their issues and or concerns, okay?
Good.
And that, do we need a special court session? I don't think we do.
I don't think
but
we do either.
Anybody's invited. If
That's
we
what
have-
I wish had happened 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
But you can't invite everybody.
Actually, you can in a special meeting because it's a quorum and it's official.
But 2 weeks ago.
This is too serious.
2 weeks ago,
You're making this a way bigger deal than it is.
we didn't have the interlocal agreement from PACE, from Energize Kentucky, and we didn't have the administration agreement from PACE. It was a concept delivery that was new to us, and our finance committee sat there with Mary and myself, and I don't know who else was there, but that was basically it, for an information presentation. And that's, we said, this sounds really good from an economic development tool. Jody Lester and Eric Gibson were there. Other than that, it sounded really good to bring to the court. And that's what we've tried to do. It wasn't any malice
No,
or
no, not at
degree
all.
of
It's just
admission.
information.
There was no degree of admission thought about.
Yeah.
Okay? So, with that being said, we've answered the mail on the ordinance, and we need to move on. We'll have further discussions. I'll let everybody know when we have the meeting on the interlocal agreement and the program administration.
Yeah.
Okay?
Thank you, Judge.
Yeah, very good.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, just a couple of comments. So, just so you know, this will, help Meg it, because,
Absolutely.
the, summary to everyone, just saying kind of here's what the runway looks like if It is, going to try to ultimately get, the financing because for those of you, they are trying to put in the solar, panels, at least start it by the end of the year because of the safe harboring to get the federal tax credit that goes along with it. And not to confuse it, PACE is just the way to pay for it, but, they're able to take all their credits and depreciations, however their accountant, professional tells them. But anyway, I just wanted to let you know that they were, so I'll let them know, kind of the results. That it's moving forward, with that. And then I'm happy to stay after this meeting to sit down with a couple of you to kind of talk through some more. What's that?
You don't have that much time.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm fine. No. Again, I want to make sure everybody's comfortable and all questions answered. No, I'll buy lunch.
What we may do this afternoon, since you have offered availability, if anybody else has availability, I could see if the local officials are available, and we could just have that discussion amongst the principals now.
Yeah.
This afternoon.
It's always easier to kind of have the face-to-face if we could, but.
We'll just wait and see.
But I'll.
We'll just wait and see.
Okay.
I don't have any huge appointments this afternoon, so I'm available. Tom, are you available this afternoon?
I can make myself available.
Anybody else that would like to hear the discussion on the interlocal agreement and or the program administration? You're all welcome.
Thank you.
Okay?
I want to
Appreciate it, sir. Thanks.
I want to thank Chris. Chris was so pleasant at the other meeting and today for
absolutely
his information.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you for your time. Yeah, appreciate it. Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Chris.
Look at my notes, and that might preclude a whole lot of discussion.
Very good.
There's all through it, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
All right. Next we have Director
Thank
Rogers.
you.
Mike Rogers. Hope I said that loud enough for him to come in.
You may not want to come in.
You get to be the doorkeeper.
He was screaming and running last time I saw him.
Here he comes.
Here he comes.
Here he comes. Look out.
Are you sure you want to come in? I hope.
All right, Mike assured me earlier he'd be quick, so there he is.
Mike, you wanna let her go first? That way she's waiting long enough.
Yeah, we have thank you, Judge, Court. We're here today to consider Australia Godby as a part-time hire. Would be effective today. She's an EMT for $12 an hour.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion been made by Mr. Gage, seconded by Magistrate Simmons to approve the hire.
Did you have an effective date?
Effective today.
And you heard the salary range. Does anybody have any questions?
Welcome aboard, and thank you for your willingness to serve.
Does she have a name?
Go ahead and work on your paramedic.
EMT.
EMT.
I know she's EMT, but she needs to be a paramedic.
Go there.
Yeah, study. 2 years, not very
Stay while
long.
you can.
Call for the question, Judge.
All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Welcome to the county government.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for your offer to service.
What's her name again?
Australia Godby.
Australia.
Australia.
Like the country. It kind of sounds like the country. The country. Australia.
Just say Miss Godby, that's a lot easier.
Yeah, Miss Godby.
I like the name. I've never heard
Boyle
of it.
County resident?
Yes.
All right.
Cool, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very
for
much.
being here
Thank you,
today.
appreciate you.
She's been here since 8 o'clock, so.
All right, first thing on the agenda is it the Zoll? Is that first?
Yeah.
Requesting to purchase the Zoll monitors that we've talked about. It's 4 monitors.
And how much was that price again?
140. No, that's the budget. I didn't get a copy. Is there a copy of that?
It's 139 and some change.
$139,540.68.
Man, you left a lot hanging in the budget there.
We have a letter that goes along with them.
I know it is. I do have a sole source letter.
Did we ask them in here?
It's not in there, no, but I do have one.
Yeah, we have to have.
That'll need to be supplied for audit, you know.
Yeah, it's over $30,000, and
Yes,
we
sir.
didn't put it out to bid. And, you know, the state law requires us to bid anything over $30,000.
Come on.
I move that we approve the purchase with the, once the
The-
sole source letter is in place.
In place.
Second.
Motion made by Magistrate Gabe to approve the purchase of these old equipment and seconded by Magistrate Cullen. Discussion. Questions, comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Next.
Thank you, Judge. The next item on the agenda is the consideration for a full-time hire that we posted at the last court meeting. We had 2 qualified applicants. I'm thankful for those. My recommendation and the recommendation of the EMS committee is to go with James Crawford.
Talking about paramedic.
Paramedic, yes, sir.
Full-time.
Full-time. His pay rate would be $11.78, effective today.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made to approve the full-time hire of paramedic made by Magistrate Gabe, seconded by Magistrate Sammons. Questions, comments, discussions. Committee got any recommendations to go along with that from the previous meeting?
Well, we recommended the name, but we were given
Information.
applications and
Okay.
information, and we reviewed it.
Okay, so
That
this
was
comes
the
with a
decision.
committee recommendation
Yes,
for
sir.
the individual. There being no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those like sign, motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you,
I
Judge.
have a real quick question about the Zoles. Does that include the first year of preventative maintenance free or?
Well, we don't do PMs on the first year. So
But at the
they
end of the
have-
first
They have a
year.
year warranty, but at the end of the year, we would have to pay it, yeah. All right, we would have to pay that. That's how we've done with the
Can
last.
we negotiate? Well, no, usually they do the first one for free.
We didn't do that the last time we bought the 3.
I think we did.
I don't, I mean,
Let's
I
just
don't-
check into it, okay?
I'll check into it.
Yeah, let's check into
Y'all
it.
work that out. Okay,
Thank
moving right
you.
along.
All right, Duane Campbell's up next. Duane.
Right, you just have to be kind, because he's next. All right. I don't have agenda in front of me, so just tell me what.
All right, the first thing on the agenda is the request approval to solicit bids for construction of recreation trail, KY 2168.
Okay, we are now finally ready to move forward. This has nothing to do with the trail, but I'm going to start that, but y'all take this later. We're finally ready to move forward on our trails. All of our funding with the state's now in place and everything's done there, and all the paperwork's been finished, so we're ready to bid, ready to advertise for bids for advertisement for constructing or lengthening our multi-use trail from DCA, the Kentucky 33 roundabout, west toward the railroad track, toward the bridge overpass. And so that's what this project involves. The project also involves some in-kind work. It's a matching grant. And so we are ready also to move forward with our in-kind work. And mainly all we're going to be doing is just clearing the brush on the trail for the construction. And so we'll be involved with that for about 2 weeks. But that's what we're here today then, is to ask for permission from the court or approval from the court to advertise for bids for the construction of this trail.
I move that we give that permission to solicit bids for the trail.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to move to solicit bids for the trail construction.
Yes.
And made by Magistrate Gabe, seconded by Magistrate Cullen. Now we have discussion. I will say, as part of the discussion, I have constituent calls that, and it's not ours because all we do is clear the vegetation.
Yes.
For lack of a better term, out of the area. But some of the concerns were on this extended, this area, the terrain is very varied and very rough and in detail, and you have to cross a railroad?
This project will barely get us up to the bridge, the overpass.
It will not cross the railroad then?
It will not. This project will not.
It just goes to it, or where?
It'll just go to the bridge, and then they'll just have to turn around and walk back if they choose to do
Okay,
so.
so we don't cross the railroad.
What's the total length of we're talking about?
It's about 8/10 of a mile.
A mile. Okay.
But at some point, are we going to finish it over the bridge? I mean, is that the?
If we choose to.
That's the goal.
But that's not on this, not on this,
Right.
this scope.
You know, this
work.
particular grant was only for a specific amount of money, and that's as far as that money would take us.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay?
Any other questions, comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you for that. Next on the agenda is the request to surplus a large Formica table.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion made to surplus a large Formica table made by Magistrate.
You don't have any ideas of anybody that might have a use for that big round table that came out of this room here, do you? That we had in our facility for a while?
The only suggestion, is it a good solid stable table or is it wobbly?
The table itself is in good shape. The Formica's, you know, in really bad
Chipped
shape
up.
on the top of
So would it be appropriate to consider surplusing it and donating it to a nonprofit for
That would
their
be,
benefit
that would be my
itself?
desire.
it. Excellent point.
It was seconded by Magistrate Gate, but the discussion is, yeah. I would like to see that happen to like Bluebird or somebody like that, that has a connection with some nonprofits, charities.
Senior citizens might have.
Senior citizens may have something
They have a
need
need, I
for
don't
it,
know.
and we can call them, call Ben
I
and
was gonna say, if you want to determine an order, we'll
Yeah.
make contacts. It's whatever the court's
I'll leave
pleasure.
it up to you.
Okay.
We're talking a table, we're not talking like a cruiser or something like that.
Right,
Yeah.
no, it's, yeah.
If you want
Okay.
to check with General.
Well,
Hunt,
I think
that's
this,
fine.
the senior citizens is a good.
That's a
one.
good
We'll
one,
check
place
with
to
them
start,
first.
and if don't, go to Bluebird.
Yeah,
Do-
yeah.
You know, for their, how they deal with it. Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, I think I only had 3 items, so the third one is, I just handed it out to you just so you could see what we're talking about. Back during budget season, I presented this to the judge and to Mary, and you all saw it on the budget as a line item, but we ran across this particular item, which is an attachment. You attach it or change it to the bucket of a backhoe, and you can run this thing up into a tile, and you can clean out most tiles that might get stopped up or whatever. Saves us having to dig up driveways, maybe it even saves us having to dig up roadways at times. So that's what this particular apparatus is. It has, as you see there, 3 different sizes of baffles or plates, and so we can run all the way up to a 24-inch tile that we can clean out, 12 all the way up to 24. And you know, and you can use it on larger tiles. It's just that you might not get the entire tile clean, you know. But in most cases, an awful lot of our tiles may only be full halfway.
Yep.
So that will go a long way.
I've been
to clean
really
those out.
looking forward to this coming to the county for a long time, to be honest with you. Now, these are all in budget.
Yes, I did contact 2 other companies. They don't have the exact type of, this is apparently a sole source type of piece of equipment, but I did call 2 other companies that have, you know, they advertise tile cleaners. They're into much larger operations, more like for the railroad and maybe even mining up in Alaska, various things like that. They have augers, but then you have to have the unit to run that auger, and they're quite expensive. You saw one of the the quotes on there from another company. So anyway, just to let you know, I did make contacts. We contacted three companies in total, and so
What have we done in the past, Duane, about cleaning out culverts?
we dug them up.
Dug them up with a backhoe.
Just dug them up,
Replace the
cleaned them
tile.
out.
Dug them up and replaced them.
So this should save us a lot of money on,
It could in time.
yeah.
Yeah. It just all depends on the application, as you know. You know, sometimes you can get into them and clean them out. Sometimes you won't be able to. You still have to dig them up. But
It depends, you know,
Dwayne-
this is at least a more economical way
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
to save
oh, Lord,
potential
yeah.
costs.
Quite reasonable, I thought.
Culvert.
Yes.
You'll recall that we had that culvert just before you
Motion
got.
to accept, is there a second?
Second,
Motion to accept, the proposal to purchase the, I think this is battle armor design,
Yes.
okay, and seconded by made by Magistrate Kaywood, seconded by Magistrate, Salmons. Now,
Yeah.
questions?
You recall that Perryville Road culvert that is state culvert. Is there any way that we could sub with the state and amortize out this piece of equipment even more by, if we have one like that you recall, the one that was clogged right there before you, is there any way that we could subcontract out to the state and get them to pay us for doing what they would have to bring in big equipment?
I don't know about pay, but I mean, we help each other out oftentimes.
There's a mutual, almost like not a mutual aid, but you know, you help us, we'll help you, and this is.
Yeah,
kind of
So it
thing
gives us
that
more
helps.
flexibility with this
Gentleman's
tool.
agreement.
Yeah, it's a gentleman's agreement.
You know, we help the cities also.
Good,
So-
good, okay.
You
Same
gonna have any
thing.
demonstrations on this?
We might.
Well, my
You want
house.
got some in your district?
If you can get Fred on that, Tom will have that thing taken care of, have all those roads cleaned up.
All right, any further discussions, comments, or questions? There being none, all those in favor of this purchase, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, motion carries. That's it, Duane?
Ben Miles had to leave.
Yep.
I have his report for later if you want it. If you don't, it's just totally up to you, but I.
Ben Miles was at request here on the agenda to discuss, maybe he's not on the agenda.
No, this
Not on
was
agenda.
this was just a report. They thought you were gonna do under other, any action we'll do next meeting.
Okay, would anybody like to hear a report, at this point in time? I'd rather come under new business since it's not
No, that's
published
fine.
in the agenda.
Yeah,
if you
I'll be
don't
around.
mind.
Yeah, he
Okay?
was with me, yes. I'll have to read it when I get back, but you can have it.
Thank you. That way oh, this is his report. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Dwayne. Next, send, Ms. Koo in.
Yes.
Look at Mutt's rule. Hey, how you doing?
I'm representing.
That's
But
right.
I love cats too. If there's cat people, I'm into cats too.
All
Are
right.
we allowed as a tandem to be here together? I'm Kari Koo, recently hired as the executive director at Danville County Humane Society. Super excited. I've actually worked with them for a little over 2.5 years now in different capacities, primarily doing adoptions. But I'm thrilled to be part of the leadership team now. There's a lot of great stuff that's been happening over the last 6 months. I look forward to continuing that, being a resource as much as possible. And I didn't think I was going to speak today, so those are my prepared remarks, because I prepared them in the hallway. Were there any, did you want to ask any questions, or you just want to see my face and kick me out?
We just want to see you.
Thanks for
We just
your
wanted to
willingness
see you.
to serve
Welcome.
in
I'm
a
so
great role.
excited, yes.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
I'm on the Humane Society committee along with my partner here, Mr. Short, Magistrate Short. So
Excellent.
we're looking forward to the next meeting. Who's the gentleman with the, I don't recognize him.
He looks different without the cap on and the glasses.
Right.
James?
He's a masked
Are you
man.
new also?
Yeah.
He just got hired in at a big raise, so he's new.
I don't remember the committee talking anything about it. What's your position and what?
Well, I guess I'm,
He's in charge of everything, I think.
Animal control officer.
Well,
You know
He's
him.
your warden.
He's
know
our dog
him.
warden.
He's your warden.
You know
did he
him, you just
take
don't
somebody's
recognize him.
place or what? Or you
Months
knew?
and months ago.
huh?
He took.
You know him, you just don't
John
recognize
Campbell.
him with his
No,
mask
You don't
and his
recognize
hat.
him with his mask on.
Oh, okay.
James Good.
James Good.
They look like cousins
James.
here.
You don't recognize
For a
him.
second.
You don't, yeah, you don't recognize him.
I didn't recognize him. Wear your cap next time, James. Gosh.
Phil,
My
that's
gosh, I didn't recognize him.
Phil,
Yes.
Mr. Good, he's packing heat.
Well, and I'm gonna tell you, I gotta brag on him. He does a wonderful job.
He does.
But James, I apologize. I did
Does
not
anybody have
recognize
any
him.
questions
I do. We recently had a little issue, James is familiar with it, of some cats that were kind of left behind at a house, and the Animal Control Humane Society couldn't help, and I understand the reasons why. You know, we don't want to put any animal down or whatever. But through talking with Fizzy and George Comer and a few others, I think the underlying issue is that, you guys know this better, people aren't really willing to pay for cats because you can pretty much get cats anywhere. So, I mean, I mean, I have gotten 2 cats through the Humane Society, but if we could come up with some sort of way, if people have cats that don't have to come into our shelter, but the Humane Society could assist with, the Facebook page is great. You know, I see those dogs go up and then those dogs go out right away.
Sure.
So if there's some way to say, listen, we really don't want to bring the animal in, but we're gonna help you try to say, here's some cats available or whatever, and just maybe use social media. I don't know, brainstorm some way to get people to get these cats and then.
So basically rehoming from one place to another without them having to be exposed to the shelter or.
Exactly, and some sort of fixing or whatever, you know, to kind of keep down on the cat population. That would be fantastic. I think you all did exactly what you needed to do from the Animal Control Humane Society side, but it's just one of those rare instances where it was sad because we had a new Boyle County resident that was left at present they didn't want. You know, for those that don't know, there was 12 cats left at a house that this person bought, and they're outside.
They were looking for help and didn't.
Outside feral cats, technically.
Yeah.
And so that's not what the Humane Society does, because you don't want to take an outside cat and just cage it, because that's not good for the cat. And then, so that's kind of like one of those small little loopholes, but it kind of maybe brings out a different situation where we can kind of help rehome.
We can.
Without going through.
We can.
Yeah,
And that's something, Fizzy and I actually just talked on Friday about working, trying to get a volunteer group to do the TNR for us. We've got resources, we just don't have the manpower for that.
Yeah, of course.
So we do have humane traps that we can send out with someone. Deposit is required because they're expensive and they work well. So right now we have the ability for people to do the trapping on their own and then go to our vet and get the cat spayed or neutered for free with the grants that we've procured. It's just educating the community that we need them to take that extra step.
That's it
So,
right there.
we are working on our website to make it
I've
more
got an issue.
user-friendly
Can I call you
and have a
on
lot
cell
more
phone?
information
Can you
about
give me your
that.
cell phone?
And we're also going to put together a volunteer group to hit up some of the hot spots, because we know where there's some cats that we know there's some parts
You
of
never call
town that
yourself.
there are cat colonies that need to be addressed. So we want to work with community members and also with our own volunteer team to try
2020
and.
for you, we've got cat colonies now.
I know.
Well, I mean, they were always there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We
They're-
just weren't
they're-
addressing them the right way.
Yeah, they're territorial, I understand.
Well,
that.
we never
So
call
that-
ourselves.
So what animals you got, I mean, how many animals you got now?
James?
You really want to hear this?
Yeah.
Yeah, we do.
We have 3 dogs and
No cats.
no cats.
Well, we was there, our committee was there, what, 2 months ago, almost 3 months
Yeah.
ago? Y'all didn't have anything either. You had more dogs then,
Now,
you just didn't have cats.
I had a question.
Before, it was taking sometimes a month for a dog, the time it would enter, the time it would get to the vet and get put out on the adoption floor. Now it's less than 15 days.
Yeah, that's good.
Or-
That's great.
That's great.
Or how many
It is.
utilizations?
A lot better than it used to
I'll
be.
turn this is James' part.
Yeah.
He's got some good
I've
information.
seen-
James Good. James, I have a question for one of you guys. I had a call over the weekend, and I probably need to come by and discuss it with you because it'd be a little lengthy one. This person have bats in the attic, and wanted to know. I said, well, I have no idea. I don't know anything about a bat.
Yeah, animal
Wanted to know if
control.
animal control.
No, we do have a number for a guy that does do trapping.
You do have a
of
number. I'll
live
come by and get
animals.
it then.
Yeah.
Okay, so I need to call them back and
But, you
get
know,
them.
as far as animal control, we don't go into crawl spaces or attics.
Yeah. Well, I.
Fish net does a good job on them bats.
Yeah.
You can catch them pretty good.
Hey, one of those 2 cats that I got from the Humane Society is great at catching bats. We
Well, that'd be a good idea. Put 2 or 3, I'm gonna call them back and tell them to put 2 or 3 cats in their attic.
There you go.
Put a lot
Okay,
of
all
water.
right.
But as
James
far as-
has got a
as far as
presentation for us here.
Euthanasia, this month, I had a paper, I left it, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I think it was like,
We're down, right?
yeah, we're way down.
That's all I want to
Yeah, way
Here,
down.
do you wanna-
This is for like, from last year to this year type.
We did send this
it-
out in email. We'll pass it around just for a quick glance. You
And
wanna-
I'll send one around this way.
Thank you.
That's for cats and dogs both, but I think as far as like last month, we had 1 dog we had to put down. That was because it was aggressive.
I'll make one comment. John and Mary and myself have been there longer than anybody, 20-some years, all of us have. And I want to compliment you guys, because this Humane Society's in better shape now than it's ever been, as far as I'm concerned.
I agree.
Thank you.
Yeah, Animal Control and Humane Society, the partnership is.
You agree, Mary?
Oh, I agree wholeheartedly.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've been here 2 years and it's turned under 90
Which
degrees.
is a great time for me to come on board, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
It's good to have good staff.
Well,
We've all-
and I will say, you always hear the bad things, but our last board meeting, a board member came in and it was, I think it was Daisy the dog.
Yeah, Dave.
Someone had called concerned about a stray dog that did not look like it was being taken care of, and James went out, and according to this constituent, she said that the way he handled it was compassionate, very kind, and very professional. So, for all the times we hear things we don't want to hear, there's people out there that are saying positive things that don't always get translated. So,
That's good.
you're all
I'll
right.
tell you one other thing before you leave. I'd like for you to take information back to Fizzy
Oh, sure.
that we're, and I'm speaking with the court on this, I think. We really appreciate the work that she did when she came on and then turned some of the duties over to you the way I understand it.
Yeah.
And she's a wonderful person
Phenomenal.
and very
Absolutely.
compassionate about the job she did. And James, I know you all got along well, and you know I'm speaking from the heart that Fizzy did a wonderful job. And we all
Yep,
love
we will
Fizzy.
certainly pass that on.
We all love Fizzy. She's just a wonderful person.
Excellent.
She lives in a good area too.
Oh,
Sounds good.
You
Thank
might be her neighbor, huh?
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, that's all I have.
Thank you,
Thank you,
James.
James.
Good to see
Thank
you.
y'all.
Barry, thank you for coming in.
We'll keep in
All
touch.
right.
All right.
Have a good one.
We'll see you the first
Shannon.
September.
And James, on behalf of Magistrate Sammons, welcome aboard.
Yeah.
I appreciate it, thank you.
Bye, James.
All right,
Good
Shannon.
morning. Okay.
I thought you were kidding around.
I did too.
And I'm glad you're always color-coded.
That's right. Okay, I have 2 comp agreements for the court
Yeah.
to approve. One's for
And-
Keagan Hinkle, and the other one's for Dalen Morris, which is with the Sheriff's Department.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made to approve the comp time agreements for 2 individuals made by Magistrate Salmon and seconded by Magistrate Cullen. Discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay. And the next is, I'd like permission to hire a finance officer. Her name is Mariah King, and I put her resumes in the packets.
Right.
She would start August 28th with an annual salary of $25,000.
Let's go through the personnel committee.
Personnel committee,
Yes.
speak up. So.
Yes, we
recommendation-
approve it. We approve it.
Recommendation by the personnel committee.
I'll make that motion.
Motion made to hire Mariah King at the stated salary as recommended by the committee. It's been made by Magistrate Cullen. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Magistrate Kaywood. Discussion. Questions, comments? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. And now the next one.
The next
Well,
one,
before we get far, we voted on her, but we've always in the past
she will be
make sure
here
we met
next.
this person.
The personnel committee has met her, and she will be here
She will
next.
be here.
Okay, well,
Next
And she
meeting.
won't start until you meet her.
Okay, the court didn't meet her though, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Okay, Shannon, now personnel reassignments.
That I need some help with the personnel committee.
Committee, this is where the personnel committee can speak
The
up and.
county treasurer and,
And myself and others. But there is, with the impending retirement of our county treasurer, we have to look forward. And looking forward, committee members, speak up anytime you feel free, is that we need to have the right people, the best people that we have access to right now in the position for consideration to carry on. We have a young man whom you met earlier, and everybody has met, Keagan, Hinkle, that we would like to consider reassigning to the treasurer's position. We have contacted Keiko. He meets all the legal qualifications to do so, and we could project him into the position against a projected loss, okay, of that position. The second thing we would like to consider is advertising and creating a position. It may help anytime that, of a county administrator to help with all that large myriad of diverse and complex programs and policies and procedures that our treasurer has dealt with for the last 20-plus years, 30 years, whatever it may be, that are not treasury related, okay? We need to be able to have somebody to advertise but I think we need a position to kind of divide those responsibilities and accountabilities to allow us to move forward in a very effective and efficient way. So we would look to create a position called the county administrator, which would work in tandem with the treasurer to keep us moving along. And then the FO would be out there to do those functions that Mr. Pankey has done in the past.
Right.
I like the concept. I like the opportunity for us to move forward. I'd like to hear from the court and from the treasurer. But in a nutshell, what we're looking at is the approval to advertise for an administrator position, the county administrator position, to help with administrative things, okay? Ordinances, health insurance, all those
questions that come up every day.
Well,
Yeah.
we've created a job, Shannon and I have sat down and we've created a job description for this individual. And this individual, you know, it may be a difficult find, but this individual has got to come equipped with governmental background. They need to understand what county government is required to do. And sitting in this meeting, like when we talk about not having a committee meet anymore, you know, it needs to be somebody who says, we've got to modify the administrative code, because no disrespect, but the fiscal court members and the county judge are thinking about moving forward with what they need to do to make good policies. But there has to be somebody behind the scenes that's making sure that those policies are following the fiscal court and they're kept up to date. Otherwise, then things just become a mess and you don't have a good standard of operations and administration. And that's what I've always done kind of behind the scenes. In addition, we need a health insurance administrator because you are self-funded. And it needs to be somebody that understands, has some background maybe in health insurance. So this is going to be a very specialized individual, and it's going to be a hard find. So,
I make that motion, Judge, to approve the advertising for that position.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Magistrate Salmon, seconded by Magistrate Ellis to approve the advertisement for the position of administrator. Just so you know, well, now we have to have discussion, just so you know that the position will have a starting salary of $45,000, and the salaries of both that position that we have created and established with this vote will work in tandem with the county treasurer salary, and neither of those will exceed where we currently are operating from within a budgetary perspective.
And the Personnel Committee, we met August 6th on this, and we recommended to do this, you know, by separating the treasurer and the county administrator, that they could work together, and that's what we recommended to do. And it's not, the cost-wise, it's not going to be any different than what we're already paying hiring these two people.
Is there a probation period time with the new guy we just hired? And
It's
Yes.
6 months.
6 months.
6 month
Well,
probation.
Not a county treasurer.
Not the treasurer.
The county treasurer will have to be,
County treasurer.
once this goes into
County-
fruition, the county treasurer does not have a probation
No,
because it's
because
assigned,
we appoint that person.
it's appointed for a 4-year term.
Yes.
And now by placing him to county treasurer, we'll have to hire somebody for his job.
Which we just did.
That's
what
the
we
other
That's what
did.
we did. Oh, okay,
Mariah
I'm sorry.
Miss Mariah.
Mariah, yeah, okay, I'm
I
sorry.
think what you have to keep in mind, with Barry retiring, you're not only losing a person who through her years learned an awful lot about government that we're losing. And you really can't replace it.
No, you can't.
But also government has changed through the years too, and it's gotten so much more complicated. It takes more people.
It does.
And to do it right. And that's what we all want, is that it be done right.
Yeah.
Well, we've got to hire a person. Mary's been county treasurer. She's been the director of Humane Society. She's been the sheriff. She's been the jailer. What else has she been, John? Since you and I have been here.
A little of everything.
EMS director.
Pretty much, there are occasions, yes.
Animal control officer.
But she's learned how those functions operate.
Yeah.
Times change.
That's-
She don't.
And yes, losing her as a person, I miss, but losing that experience as a person is more valuable than
Well,
what
you can't
realize.
replace that experience. We know that.
You can't replace it, and it's hard to get it back.
Take a conscious effort to work
You
toward
can't get it back
doing
again.
that
Exactly right.
continued service to the
Yeah.
county.
And
So-
I think the administrator too, will create some continuity too. As we all know, elected officials come and go. I've seen a whole host. And what this does is
Yeah.
having that administrator, that keeps all the departments still flowing forward, and there's that bridge between the new county judge or a new magistrate.
It doesn't matter
To
what
make-
faces are sitting at the
Yeah,
table.
so everything stays and moves forward in.
Well, since I've been
A
here,
cohesive
I've been associated with 4 different county attorneys.
Right, yes.
Well, I'm hoping that maybe, Mary, in the back of your mind, there's somebody that you've worked with in maybe other counties that might look for an opportunity to come to Boyle that maybe you would share as a possibility.
That's good.
We're gonna look, at least with the court, with this vote, which we haven't voted yet, this is discussion.
Yeah, just I guess a technical question on the 4-year appointment of the treasurer. Does that person, the next treasurer fulfill your term, or is it a whole new 4-year term?
That individual will fulfill
The term that you're already
remainder
in.
of my term. The treasurer's term, along with your, what they call in the statute, a county road supervisor, and solid waste coordinator. Those are always appointed after the election. It's a 4-year term, and it's that June. They have to be appointed before June 30th of that
Okay,
election year.
thank you.
Yeah.
So the next judge executive will appoint this.
Okay, so they'll just fulfill the term, okay.
Yes.
No, that don't read anything into that.
Well, the court's got to reappoint them.
Okay.
That's
Judge,
I just wanted to
reflecting
clarify
on
that.
2 different $300 million corporations that I work for, with the greatest transition, and it's going to be limited time, unfortunately, the fount of information that Mary has over 20 years and the connections that she has statewide, I would just like to put it in the file somewhere in the minutes that we consider in the future the possibility of Mary being available as a consultant at times, because that transition of 20 years can't possibly be funneled down into that young man's mind in the tiny time that we'll have to get that done.
I think that's gonna be left up to Mary.
Well,
Yeah, well-
and I have to say that's very clear, is that when an individual retires, the administrator signs an agreement that there is no intention of rehiring that individual. Otherwise, it can jeopardize that person's retirement package. So at this point in time, it's very clear that I have no intention of having any relationship with the fiscal court so as to not
Just hate to lose your experience.
lose any benefit. But thank you for your comments, and I just had to say that for the record, because if anybody wanted to make trouble for me.
It would jeopardize a
It
retirement.
can jeopardize my
That's
retirement.
unfortunate.
Yeah. It is.
That's
It is
bad.
unfortunate.
That's not good.
I go back to, and I'm concerned always about which individuals, the person we have now, who, Judge, are you the one, are you scrutinizing and along with Shannon and Murray, the job that's been performed to your satisfaction, so that when Murray does retire, where you'll feel comfortable coming to the court and say, I want you to reappoint this guy for Murray's remainder of time. are you all looking at him like that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Plus the personnel committee will be involved in that too.
Absolutely.
Whoever's in that position.
Well, yeah, you'll make the recommendation too.
Yeah, but
Sure.
I was just saying,
All right. All those in favor of the personnel realignments and proposed as motion made by the motion and seconded, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Shannon?
thank you, Shannon.
And
Thank you,
who we
Shannon.
got next on the agenda, we need to see, we're gonna talk about the CBB board minutes as presented, just for acknowledgement of receipt. Anybody have any questions?
No.
All right, next, Shepherd's House July update of information. It's in your packet, information only. Okay?
I just, on Shepherd's House, I'd like to make a comment just briefly on that. They had supplied Jack Hendricks, they called me one day last week, and he had asked for help from Shepherd's House, and they'd sent 6 people out there that did a wonderful job at the Veterans Memorial, cleaning, pulling weeds, and by gosh, all 6 of them were really, they worked and cleaned those flares up and did everything, so.
Good deal. Good to hear.
Yeah.
I just wanted to report that they do a great job.
Yeah, let's talk that, you know, you can definitely see with Roger being back.
Yes.
It's
they've
big.
always done a great job.
Yeah.
You know.
Now, he's overall, I mean,
Yeah.
he's got a different position, and I met a gentleman that took his place. I don't remember his name, but a young guy that seems real sharp.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you can tell a difference in Roger's back with the organization.
Yeah.
And James.
Too bad we can't do Veterans Dinner this time.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's right, we're not gonna have it.
We're ready to move to the Treasurer Conley's report on the CARES Act. We are? Okay, good.
So did everybody get a copy of the application that I've put together for you? And I apologize it's late. I am doing,
Looks like such.
Yeah.
I'm splitting Keagan's time kind of back and forth between accounts payable and what I'm doing. So we had a good week training. But what I did do is this application was put together and it will be emailed to the Department of Local Government upon your approval today. And then from there, they will take a look at it to see if in fact these fit into the qualifications of the federal funding. And if so, then we will receive information back and we'll have to provide more information. And at that point in time, they will be requesting our resolution 20.6.18.2 that's already been passed. And hopefully we'll see the reaping of the rewards of that. So the Finance Committee sat down, and I don't know if the Finance Committee wants to talk about what we did.
I would just, I would. The Finance Committee reviewed the information that Mary put together and has presented, and I guess with the help of the other department areas and the sheriff and the jailer and et cetera, emergency management. And we recommend the submission of this budget to the state for consideration.
Because what we did do, too, is we sat down and made a determination of what was CARES funding appropriate and what was FEMA funding appropriate.
Right.
And at this point in time, there is FEMA information that is being collected, and it's more of the tangible items that are easily submitted for reimbursement because FEMA will not reimburse any salaries unless it's overtime. So there are some overtime salaries in the FEMA application, but that's an open-ended, and you can only apply once with FEMA, as I understand it, and so we've kind of left that open-ended to see where we end up, and before we close, we'll submit that. And I have a few phone calls yet to make because I've been a little busy this week about taking advantage of what they call a streamlined application. So.
Yeah, so
more information to come.
Yeah, so we're going to, so we'd ask Mary to gain more information on the streamlined application process.
For FEMA.
And for FEMA, and the FEMA we did agree to hold on that a little bit and have some more discussion about strategically applying for the FEMA funds at the appropriate time, because this is so different than any other state of emergency really that any of us have been in our lifetime, where most of the time you have a disaster that occurs, and then there's the recovery and rebuild and all that occurs at one period of time. This is like a rolling state of emergency that we're in that is very different than anything we
want to try and beat the rush once we get to a point of comfort regarding the FEMA piece, and we're looking at sometime in mid-October, first November time frame.
Right.
Won't be a rush on that.
So this is 880,000 out of that. How much did they allot for our county?
One million.
1.3?
Yeah, like 1,032,000.
32,000.
Yeah.
1,032,000.
And so the rest is being used to get the,
We can file a second.
no, I'm just,
Okay, we can file a second on this. The rest is not being used.
The rest is not committed.
Not committed
I thought
yet.
we were using for the power liftings.
I'm going to submit those first to FEMA. That's kind of why we've left this balance out here, is because we have a FEMA application to go through, and we'll be submitting that FEMA, I would think, sometime at the end of this September or October, somewhere before that money runs out too. I don't think we need to tally too long. If they reject some of those expenditures, you can always fall back on these funds to get reimbursed for that. Because that's that tangible stuff, and leaving a balance and kind of, seeing which one's going to pay for what, because we know CARES will pay for and will easily reimburse us for expenditures with the $122,000. But we're just going to see if FEMA will pay it, and then that'll free this up for more reimbursement.
I just wanted to check.
Strategically, figuring out what's the best way to optimize our best return on federal Homeland Security money.
So I'll make the motion that we submit the application for funding based on the proposed budget.
Motion made by Magistrate, second by
Thank
Magistrate Short. Any further discussion? All those in favor of submitting the application for CARES Act reimbursement, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, motion carries.
I need to make a comment just to let you know that your FEMA authorized, what they call the registered applicant for FEMA is not the county treasurer. It is Rusty. He did the ice storm, so Rusty's the one that has familiarity with working with our DLR, or whatever they call that person. And so he'll be moving that forward.
Okay.
Once I.
And Rusty attended our finance committee meeting
He
to
was there
go
with
over the information with the FEMA.
How you see Rusty too.
How you doing?
All right, we're moving right along. We'll go into new business.
Okay.
Mr. Ellis.
Jason, you could probably speak to this. What's the status and how many days are left on that alcohol petition?
It's done. We did not obtain the signatures needed.
So 2 years off.
So we have to wait till 2022.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, it was unfortunate. I will say that Jody and those at EDP really tried to push, but I think that we kind of relied on some events that ended up getting canceled due to COVID to obtain those signatures. We tried a last minute push with an electronic version, but sadly, just did not get where we needed to be.
You get on people down there, you don't get on electronic stuff.
Number two, just an update, because of COVID and the hot weather, we still are interested in the parks equipment, and I'm going to coordinate with John Bell on that and the judge. Third, just so everybody knows, and Jason and I are the Constitution Square appointees by the judge, we do have the vacancy not only of a member but also the chair, and hopefully if you have folks who ought to serve on that Constitution Square Citizens Committee, get to the judge with your nominees.
Yeah, I have a person of interest that that I'd like to submit, but
So you're gonna do that at the next court meeting?
Hmm?
You're gonna elect,
I would submit a nomination and take other nominations for consideration for the next court session.
Great. That's all I have.
The committee did vote for a chair replacement.
Oh, good.
Yesterday.
Good.
And that person, which we can have Duane talk about if you want to, but the person, Ben Miles, was elected by the committee to be the chair.
Is Ben coming today?
He was going, he was here, he had to leave.
Oh, okay.
And he left this report. Would you like for Ann to go ahead and read the report?
He's an excellent candidate, folks.
We know Ben, I don't think we need it.
Okay, all right, okay, that's fine.
You can maybe just make a copy of it and put it in our boxes or something.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Yeah, Ben.
We'll do that, okay.
I don't have anything.
Don't have anything? Okay. Magistrate Samuels.
Mary's gonna be leaving, and, as you all know, I'm on the, board with KCO, is on the executive committee moving up. I'm first vice president now, and, I'm sitting here thinking, Mary, and John K. would agree to this. Mary was the one that got me elected. I'm serious. Mary, we met, when we.
No, I ran around a conference.
When we was gonna vote on this, our conference, our KCO conference was at the height. And we had about 1,200 people there. And, Mary had signs, vote for Sandwich for second VP, and she posted them all, this in Rupp Arena. I'm serious.
In the elevator.
There's an elevator that's everywhere. I've had people going to ball games and said, my God, what are you doing running for what? So Mary was my campaign chairman that did all the work. I just ran along. Anyhow, there's 3 of us running for that position, and Mary was so strong that the day of the vote, like y'all probably not familiar the way we vote, but they vote per county, like a judge is going to cast so many votes. Every how many people we have at the conference determines how many votes you get.
A lot of fun.
And so anyhow, the day about 2 hours before the actual election, these other 2 guys resigned. They dropped out. So that just left me. So thank you. The thing that I'd like to, we're debating, and this concerns all of us. Had a meeting yesterday at KCO, and we're trying to decide, Judge, whether to have our conference or not.
Oh, man.
Jim put out a email asking, it was a vote, and I'm sad to say that out of the 7 of us, there's only, more than that, counting Chris and some of us, there's only 3 people responded whether or not you felt like we should have it or not, from this court.
Oh, I didn't see that.
I didn't see it either.
You didn't see it?
No, I didn't either.
Well, 3 people voted for it anyhow.
Yeah, I didn't see
So
it.
if you would like to have your input on that, and I'd especially like to know, Judge, how everybody feels.
We do it right here.
Yeah,
made that verbally.
Would you care to do that?
What's their prospective date?
I'm sorry?
It's October.
October the 28th through the 30th at the Galt House. And we've got to let the Galt House know pretty quick in order not to be.
Well, you got my vote to do it.
These things are,
We need it.
as you well know, the conferences are set up 2 years in advance.
Yeah.
So it's a big thing. All right.
What do you think?
I vote aye.
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 3, 4, 5,
I would,
6.
with, as long as, the caveat is, as long as the health and safety
Allow you to wear your
guidelines
mask
are in place and the conditions allow
Well,
at the time.
we got to decide, there's only, the way the governor has it set up now, there'd be only 50%. And we're trying to say, well, 500 people, we're trying to decide how we can set it up if we did have it, that would accommodate 500 people. And what about our vendors? That's where we make our money, is having those guys come in.
Just so you know.
It's 100%, eh?
700%.
Okay,
Data
appreciate.
Data that is not coming out often enough is that in Kentucky, the recovery rate has now gone from 98.7 to 98.8. And I hope that KCO or someone can find out what the recovery rate, the flip side, the death rate of the last 10 years of garden variety flu has been in Kentucky. because I would suspect that it's not much different or even more serious a situation than we're seeing. I'm a proponent of the masks and all the safety measures. I'm above average in age in this room, but that is a statistic that in healthcare administration really needs to get out so that people understand that yes, this is a terrible pandemic, but the recovery rate is so small.
Yes, sir. Anything else,
so
Magistrate
large.
Simmons?
Excuse me.
That's all I have, Judge.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, I have a couple things.
I'll come back to you.
One, I talked to you and Mary about brass band.
Yes.
Any determinations made on that? And,
We sent a request for return.
Return, okay.
I've not got, and it was probably the following day. No, it was the
The
following
same
day
day.
after we.
The same day.
Well, after
They're not
I
doing
talked
the
to.
brass band?
Yeah.
No.
We talking about
And
getting
I've
the
not
funds?
gotten
Second time they
response.
canceled it, or postponed and then
So
canceled.
with brass
Wait a
band.
minute, I have a question on that. What refund, are our money returned in?
Yes.
Well, I wonder, why would we do that?
Because they're not using it for the purpose.
Well, that person's, there's still expenses that goes on.
But they submitted
There's
a
a salary.
This is
That's not
for
what they
salary, though.
submitted their
No.
request for.
This was for the stage and other equipment was what they requested the $10,000 for.
Yeah.
Since
It wasn't
they're not-
salaries.
Since they're not having it, they're not using that stuff, so the money should be returned back to the county.
We
Because
done
I
give
asked
one
that
year.
question, Magistrate,
You know, we
Sammons,
done gave
I
them 1
asked
year.
that question whenever they asked for their request. I said, will the our donation, destination, or its use change? And they said no, and they submitted an actual document to us stating what it was gonna be used for. That's the only reason why we're having this conversation.
I figured that this money went straight into their general fund to take care of
No.
That's not
salaries.
what they have
And
reported.
really, the same is true, and I talked with the other day on our conference call with Jack Hendricks. The same applies to the Veterans Day Appreciation Month,
Yeah.
because that money was earmarked to purchase golf carts, which will not be utilized. So Jack alerted Sharon that $1,000 may have to be returned.
And Shannon and Sharon and I, it was never dispersed, but it was in the process of being
Okay.
dispersed.
Yeah.
So Sharon and I talked yesterday, and she understood, and she's just excited that we're gonna be moving forward into the following year
A
and
bigger and better way.
bigger and better, so.
I just don't want the brass band. I know they're not having it this year, but John will have to agree with me that was a wonderful thing, brought a lot of people into this county. And I don't want it to go busted where, well, maybe they're not gonna have it next year, so.
They're not gonna get busted. They're not gonna bust
I don't know, but in order, we have to be very specific by procedural regulations
Yes.
on this.
Yeah. We just can't give money away.
Yeah.
I mean, we just
I
can't give
understand
money
that. I
away.
didn't just come on the wagon today. I
Yeah.
understand that.
We didn't get the money last year either, did we?
This
Did we
is
get it
last
back?
year's money.
I know, but they didn't do it last year either.
No, and what they did is they asked for it, see what they do, they wanted that money early last year. The city gave them their money early last year, and they told us we could wait until March. So we dispersed that money for March for the June Brass Band Festival, because keep in mind, this treasurer didn't give money in advance. If it was used for certain things that they asked for, I saved that money and kept it in our budget so that we could gain the interest off of those funds. And we gave Brass Band no earlier than March of any year before the June. Well, we dispersed those funds in March with the statement saying that that money would go toward, the sound system and the stage or whatever. There was 3 very tangible things that they're going to be using for that.
Okay.
Now that they've decided, and then we heard it was going to be in September, but now that it's completely been put
canceled,
off, then we just had a conversation. It's important that we know where the county, the taxpayers' dollars are going and what they're being spent for.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you on all that. And then just something that's been kind of going a little further, but we realize there's a lot to it. Chris and I are still actively working on the smoking ban. Some of the other ordinances we've looked at have, it's a really big, broad thing, and there's questions about the jail and stuff like that. hopefully within the next 1 or 2 sessions, we'll have something to bring forward.
All right, anything else?
No, that's it.
We've only got one place in Junction now that does smoke, and that's at Shipmark.
That's the only
Wanda's
place left?
moved out, they moved down to Moreland.
Wanda's out? Wanda's, yeah, they're no longer in
They're no
Junction.
longer in Junction, they're down, they went down to Moreland, that, them brothers had that.
Two brothers there.
Two brothers, that's
across
where
the
they're at
railroad
now.
station? They
That's where they're
did. Well, that's not as big a space as they had.
All right, next, that's good.
I don't have anything.
You're on, John.
Yes, Judge, I do have something. There's quite a controversy between Mercer and Boyle going on.
Babe, listen, please.
And I will read you, I picked up the Harrisburg Herald, which came out last week. Boyle County tries to walk out of jail agreement is the headline. That gives me the feeling that this is a subject that needs to be discussed by the whole court. And education in many respects. It's been brewing, been simmering. I think we're there. When you read this comment that was in the paper and the write-up by them, I think you understand why. There was a meeting Tuesday that I was not at, but I would like a report of that meeting and what was said and what was the feeling of the folks who were there. And Chris, there's probably some interpretation of legal that maybe you can add through this discussion that you and Brian have had maybe. So.
Right. I want to hear about the meeting first.
Okay, that's fine. And whoever wants to talk, whoever was there, should probably just kind of.
Just so you know, it is request. Former Judge Executive Tony Wilder is standing out in the hallway. He wanted just a few minutes to speak for point of clarity, his remembrances of what happened 20-some years ago.
John was on that, John was a magistrate at that time, before he left and he came back, right?
Right. So he's out there, we can bring him in now, he can sit and listen, or we can go ahead.
Well, let's do this. Let's talk about Tuesday's meeting, if you don't mind.
Yep.
And then we can bring in Mr. Water.
Yep.
And then we can have further discussion.
Yep. Okay, Tuesday's meeting, guys. I was there.
Do you want to start?
Yeah, let's bring him in.
I thought Tuesday's meeting, I learned a lot that I had a misunderstanding or misinterpretation of what it was. In the meeting, there was myself, Magistrate Gay, Magistrate Ellis, Ted Dean, and Wayne Jackson, Magistrate from Mercer County. Ted represented Millward Debon at Millward's request, just because if there were discussions about legally pending issues. Now, answer the question, because it's been brought up to attention. Is Judge Debon an attorney? I don't think he is.
I don't think he's.
No, he is not.
He is not. Okay.
And I said that, and I stand to be corrected. I was wrong. I found out last night because I asked somebody else. So I apologize.
Point of clarification, he is not, and he requested that his attorney represent him, because that's the relationship that they have. Okay.
However, I think it may be said here, who are the voting members of the Joint Jail Committee?
The Joint Jail Committee voting members are the jailer, the 2 county attorneys, and the 2 county judge execs, 5 members. That's the voting membership.
Wait a minute, run that by me again, Judge. There's 2 county attorneys,
2 judge execs,
two county judges,
and 1 jailer.
And 1 jailer, okay.
Now, our jailer has said he's taking himself off the committee, according, what he said 2 weeks ago. So I don't know where, that leaves 4.
Still got a quorum.
Yeah.
Still got a quorum.
Yeah.
Still got a committee.
Still got a committee, and you still got a quorum.
You only got 4 votes.
Right. Go ahead.
All right, my recollections from the meeting. First of all, with, as you called it, a simmering issue over some period of time that I think predates Jamie and me being on the committee. Nonetheless, the atmosphere in this room, to me, was collaborative as it could possibly be. The unfortunate circumstance is, for some reason, that article, whatever prompted it, had to be already in the flow of, if not already in print, before we had this remarkably good discussion with good ideas all around the table on how we might proceed. I will state that with my second term on the committee, I was leaning very, very strongly before that meeting last week toward separation, per diem, bed use, billing from us, no joint jail arrangement in the future. But many howevers took place, as the judge kind of indicated. Number one, and maybe the biggest number one, is this is the most unique contract in all my years of looking at contracts that I have ever seen, where, using the term of Mr. Dean, I can't divorce you and you cannot divorce me. It takes both signatures to eliminate the joint jail as it has existed for, I believe, now 23 years. That is a strong statement, which means that either party trying to withdraw might find itself in a circumstance of being significantly challenged by the other party. And along with that, it was mentioned from Mercer County, what do you think we're going to do with the fact that we have given you $3.5 million toward debt service? That's a very sobering concept if you take it to its extreme, which I think we could all understand in the room what that could possibly mean. There was not a complete recognition, but certainly an opinion from Mr. Dean that he could look into the idea of the constitutional question raised by our jailer. I know that Chris, in conversations with Brian, have all but come to the conclusion that from a statutory and constitutional standpoint, the jailer acts on his own position as he is given the direction but not the mandate from the Joint Jail Committee. Help me out, because I've got 2 or 3 more points. And
we discussed the liability question that the jailer has brought up on several occasions about being a concern that that Boyle County and our citizens are on the hook for liability issues. We talked about the fact that really that's something we can discuss with our insurance carrier and me and Keiko and talk through that issue. We also addressed.
If I may, right here before you go any further, the point of clarification is the email, and Mary has confirmed this, and I think you have, Mary, is that through the Joint Jail Committee funding of the 2 entities, county governments, Mercer has since day one paid a portion through the joint jail of their allocated proportion at 35 to 30 to 27% of insurance premiums for liability insurance to cover litigation as it would happen in the jail. So they would be 30 or 35% covered under the Keiko provision, which has never been exceeded, to my knowledge, in the jail. The limits have never been exceeded.
Yeah, so
they're paying their fair share of liability.
Yeah, so that was a concern that has been brought up, and that's good to hear. So that
yes, it is. Yeah, that clarification is critical.
No, explain something to me, jail committee. I guess there's a misunderstanding on really my part. I understood all along that you had either 30 or 60 days that either party could withdraw.
That's not how the contract reads.
I've never seen a contract where you couldn't get out of it. Mr. county attorney, how does this work?
That's the way it was written.
It's amazing that it's written.
My God, if there's a contract state that you can't get out of something, I never heard of it.
Requires both signatures.
That's right. It's written that way. I mean, I think that any contract where you can't, like if someone's so benefiting and the other one's at the detriment to the other, I mean, I don't think that's fair. I mean, I think that's unconscionable.
Well,
It could be, and you know, therefore, like a clause like that could probably be, you know, if it were challenged in a court, severed out of the agreement, because I mean, that seems.
And imagine what that would do for our attorney fees.
Say, for example, me and Ronnie's in business together, and we have a contract together, which naturally we'd have a different. How in the world can we write up a contract that neither one of us can get out of?
But I need to go back
They'd
to
have
what
both their signatures.
But that's why I need
That
to
don't
go
make
back
sense.
to Tony coming in and having this conversation.
Yeah, he
because
can help shine some light
at
on
that time, that's when that's when the regional jails were going on, and those contracts were written that once there was a change in administration, these regional jails were being torn apart because people were getting out of contract. And we deliberately wrote this contract this way because there was debt service involved, there was a lot of money and a joint relationship going on, so it had to be a joint separation if that were to ever take place.
Wait, see, Tom made the comment about.
To protect both parties.
Both parties. Both
That
parties.
contract, that's the reason it was written.
But Tom made the comment about you can't divorce one person or the other. You can't hold somebody in a marriage if they don't want to be in a marriage.
But that was not my comment, that was the comment of the attorney from Mercer.
No, I know that. And so, I mean, I could understand if we were equally involved, but we are not equally involved. They pay significantly less, and they always want to pay less, even though they utilize more services.
Well, they had a better deal all along than we did.
I'm sorry?
All along. And they've used that to their advantage each time, so.
Let me go back to what the meeting.
Let me say this before Jamie speaks. They have paid their proportional share based on the inmate population that is normally assessed on a monthly basis.
Right.
They don't pay for 100 inmates, they pay for 40 inmates. They pay for 35 inmates.
And for many years, there was a low threshold of 35%, and for many, many years, they were under that lower threshold, but they still paid the 35% for about 8 years, I believe it was.
So they paid more.
Well,
than what their accountability of the inmate participation.
I pay a lease, and I don't get any portion of that bill when I leave it, so.
Let's only explain why you drew up such a stupid agreement.
I didn't say that.
I can explain that perfectly.
Judge Wilder is here. He wanted to say something.
Yeah, I guess I just wanted the other point, because I think that they have met their obligations of the agreement, and it's been a proportional and good agreement for all these years. And I guess ultimately we decided at that meeting that we would continue with the committee meeting.
Discussions.
And it's still, the joint jail committee still exists. I want to make that perfectly clear. If the jailer does not want to participate in that, and he feels like there's some constitutional reason he can't, then that's his decision. But our feeling is that the joint jail committee continues, and it still exists, and it will continue to exist. We also discussed the fact that under the current agreement, that Boyle County has 3 votes in a 5-member committee. So we have, that's more than proportional in our, and so the Boyle County representatives can carry the committee in and of itself in our votes.
And that one point was what really started moving me away from my prejudice about perhaps dissolving the contract to an understanding that was being reached with the collaboration that we were hearing, and that issue right there gives us a proportionate ability to assure that our interests are well taken.
Yeah, and then any recommendations and considerations made by the Joint Jail Committee then go to the respective fiscal courts to ultimately make, other decisions.
Well, Tony's here, and we don't need to waste all of his time. Let him talk.
Okay. I just wanted to make those points at the meeting, and then the last thing is that we talked about the fact that the Joint Jail Committee should remain in place and continue to move ahead in discussions about, even about our future endeavors related to our renovation, new, and then at that point, down the road, we can talk about whether we sever the relationship through those discussions and dialogue.
Let me make a point that I think that we need a legal interpretation on it. I think it would draw clarity to the jailer's concerns. If the joint jail, in a 3-2 vote, voted to approve a project or a procedure or a policy, and it went to secondary approval to each respective fiscal court, Mercer disapproves and Boyle approves. What happens then? The joint jail approved, and one fiscal court approved, the other one disapproved. We need a legal interpretation of what that disapproval impacts or fines.
I mean, it carries the day. That's the way it was drawn.
What it carries the day because the joint jail approved it and Boyle fiscal court approved it.
Absolutely.
So it's passed.
You'd have to. I don't see how it couldn't.
Well,
Okay.
Well,
Tony?
Judge, first of all, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. I feel like, and I'm going to speak more as a citizen today than I am anything else. I'm going to integrate a little something in about what I'm doing now professionally. But I've been reading with great interest about the jail. And I'm a citizen probably that has a little deeper and broader perspective on this than the average person walking around out there. And and I've been concerned because in 1997-98, when we were thinking about this onerous responsibility of building a new jail, and it was interesting. Let's see, I don't know if anybody, John, you may have experienced some of those visits we had from state government and talking about all the waivers we've made.
I knew of them, but I wasn't in those meetings.
We were under extreme pressure.
No doubt about it.
The jail was archaic. It was dangerous. It was out of compliance, and we had to make some tough decisions. And we, of course, always Mercer's prisoners. We kept Mercer's prisoners. They paid for Mercer for their way there. And when it came time to build a jail, we were talking about an $8 million jail. Big money at that time. And what you all are throwing around now is a real interesting figure. But when we explored this, and you know in my public life, when I talk about what we accomplished as a court when I was here, I always said we. Always said we. But there are two things where I became involved that made a difference. One was my relationship with Judge Kirkland in Mercer County. And the other was when it came time to finance this jail, this $8 million jail, I was able to secure a $2.1 million correctional building authority grant that took down the price of our jail to about $6 million. Now you think about it, you just paid that off in 2018. You talk about a $25 to $30 million obligation without a partner. That's a tremendous, and that's why I'm interested. That's why I came and wanted to spend the time with you, because we explored the regional jail statute. It was a disaster. It was flawed. That's why we chose to go this route. And the example that we had was the Big Sandy Regional Jail Complex up in the mountains. It had Johnson and McGoffin and I forget the other county.
Martin,
absolute disaster, because they did not write into that statute a central authority to run the jail. There were conflicts all the time.
Yeah.
We even had one county pull their prisoners out and go back to their old jail, and still were so mad they paid their part because they were legally obligated. But they took the sick prisoners back. It was a disaster. So George McClure, we went to people, talked to authorities, tried to come up with the best way to do this for the people of Boyle County. This was for the people of Boyle County, because what we did and what you all carried on was saving the people of Boyle County money, because we were able to capture a willing and committed partner. That's what this was about. And I'm concerned, yes, all three of the elected officials on the Joint Jail Committee had an obligation to Boyle County. But they also had to demonstrate some leadership, some statesmanship, and some basically common sense courtesy to our department. That was important. The jailer's in a unique position. But he still, in my view, because he serves the benefit, he serves the people of Boyle County, that important agreement was essential. It was essential. We saved a lot of money, and when this decision was made, when that joint jail agreement went to Frankfurt, to the Department of Local Government, then went to the Attorney General's office, it was heralded as a breakthrough because people knew they had the example of Big Sandy, struggles, conflicts. It was the first time two counties got together as partners to not only build a new jail, but manage and run a new jail, and do it where one county concedes authority. Never been, never happened. So, we thought it was a small obligation to be able to offer our partner county, our sister county, our contiguous county, some courtesy. When it came time, and the only thing I can remember ever questioning from Mercer County was maybe cost of things, which they had a right to do. They were paying 40%. Now, there may be things that have happened since I left and all that kind of thing, but I can only speak to what I know. And I'm going to say this. I'm going to now jump over to my professional side. I'm in constant contact with the General Assembly leadership. We just had the chair of the interim joint local government committee up here before our ad directors. You know what his number one emphasis was? That he came there to talk to us about the number one thing? Shared services. Yeah. Interlocal agreements. Resources are going to be gone. The way that you're going to have to deliver services, and we were ahead of the game.
Yeah.
We've done this. We did it with the city of Danville.
I wonder why, and you may have an answer to this because I don't know, why in 22 years no other dual county configurations happened like what we had.
I don't know.
Why has that not happened?
Well, it was attempted in West Kentucky. And I'm not so sure it didn't happen in West Kentucky. But some costs came involved in the city, in the construction of the jail. I think Fulton and Hinkle were going to go together to build a jail. And quite frankly, I meant to look at that before I came here. But, parochialism. Our county, we don't need that. We'll just do it ourselves. That's part of it. And that's what we can't let happen. This is my opinion. This is my citizens' opinion. I just think it speaks so well when two counties can join forces to deliver a very, very vital and essential and important service as your jail.
Well,
and listen, Kenneth Kirkland, and to this day, bless his heart, he's gone. But let me tell you something, he took a lot of heat for that. Because I even heard it, I had kin folks in Mercer County. And they said, oh, you hoodwinked old judge, didn't you? You got to get involved in this, it's going to cost money. I said, no, let me tell you something. Kenneth Kirkland was an old stock trader. And he was a smart man, and he knew a good deal. Yeah, it was a mutually good deal for both. They ended up paying less than he would at per diem in some jail they had to take the prisoners to. And yet we benefited from the debt service payments and the operational costs that they paid for. And as long as we kept things going, and there's always been bumps. There's always bumps. But most of the time, that joint jail meeting and those proceedings and what we arose out of that public policy-wise was always an honorable thing. People worked together. At least when I was here, I don't ever remember a major disagreement. There's always, with personalities and public officials and egos, things get in the way. But for the most part, it's survived 22 years, and you paid your jail off.
Yeah, I guess I would just say, because again, I think there's been some grabbing headlines, I guess, or whatever.
Sells papers.
However one I say that. But there has not been any decision made to separate and break apart the Joint Jail Committee.
And that's what I heard. That's good.
None. And so I think it's important to know that and acknowledge that this is an agreement that's still in place and will continue to be in place until we decide what our future looks like as far as
I
our.
think it's a perfect opportune time to seek some tweaks to things that maybe help improve the interlocal agreement. But I just think this is a good time to look at those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And I want to address the jailer's concerns. But the liability was one of his concerns, and some of the legality issues of some of his concerns as far as guidance and direction. We've all read that, we've heard that, and he's told us that. I don't know, excuse me, how much KJA influence on that has had, but I've asked our attorney to see if there's any legal changes in the law as signed off by Ben Chandler, who was the Attorney General in 97, 98. In the agreement, he signed off on the agreement as being a legal binding agreement.
And it was written under the local.
Has anything changed statutorily? I know it hadn't changed constitutionally. Changed statutorily to change that.
Back in July 15th, like the interlocal statutes have all been tweaked, to some degree. One question I have for Tony, is this original jail?
No, sir. Again, we did not pursue that on purpose. Now, we called out there and someone answered. That particular jailer we had at that time preferred to answer it regional jail.
All right, and the reason I asked that is because, like when you look at the contract, the interlocal cooperation, it says, whereas the parties have agreed in principle to share the cost of a construction, acquisition, installation, maintenance, operation, and financing of a regional jail facility. So if we're going to tweak some things, I think that probably needs to be taken out for the reason that there's specific statute, that talks about the powers and authority of a regional jail. It's KRS 441-800, and then there's specific statutes that deal with the formation of where you have interlocal agreement, and you have a joint jail committee, and that's KRS 65.210 through 65.300. So to me, that's a little confusing. And I think we've had a great relationship with Mercer County. Yes.
But Chris, from our meetings and previous meetings, I don't think that we are under the KRS for a regional jail.
Well, I'm just saying, that's what it says.
That statement in there is more of a demographic description rather than a statutory description. It may probably, it implies. Now, I understand what you're saying, but it was never, ever viewed as a regional jail. And
so the point of clarification would be to change the description of what the jail is to a shared purpose jail, not regional.
But I have a question though, because you had mentioned that Boyle County would be the authority of this in this agreement.
Well, conceded control. Maybe that's a better word.
The vote ratio.
With a 3-2.
Yeah.
3-2 vote.
Yeah. And they willingly went right along with that.
I have a question for Chris. We refer to this as an interlocal agreement. In some of Brian's writings, he refers to a jail authority. Is there a difference?
That's kind of where I was getting to, because at this point, this makes Brian a jail administrator, not a jailer, because essentially we have the power to tell him what to do instead of him being able to use his constitutional authority to run that jail effectively. And that effectiveness, whether we have the 3-2 or whatever, it can be influenced so that we may not actually vote with his authority in mind.
Do we have the authority?
We don't.
We don't have the authority to tell the jailer anything.
We were always mindful of the constitutional authority of the jail. But as you know, you own the purse strings.
Right.
And you approve the budgets. And there are certain policy matters and activities in that jail, I think, as a fiscal court, and because this was a joint jail authority, that Mercer had some, involvement in, that they could advise the jailer either way about whether it's approved.
Well, that was one of the things that we talked about the other day as well, is the fact that really the joint, and I'd have to get Chris's and Tony, your perspective, and everybody else that's been involved for all the years, is we felt, just my understanding is that joint jail committee is more of a, financial guiding body and not a policy guiding body. I understand what you're saying. Obviously, there is policy can be set by the budget,
But I think
et
you're
cetera.
correct.
But I think it's more of a financial tool.
And it's set
to
up that
finance
way
and
all
fund
along,
it,
Tony.
and it's not a policy. So that's where it doesn't cross over.
You don't make any
with
policy.
the jailer's constitutional authority on running the daily
Right.
operation of the jail.
Well, I mean, if you look at the, when it says what it was created for, it says the construction, acquisition, installation, ownership, operation, maintenance, and financing. So, I mean, operation, that's kind of part of it.
That's where operation through the budget, through policy.
Yeah,
through
like we
budget.
did a mental health, operational contract. Well, if the joint jail and the fiscal courts didn't agree with that, then he operationally couldn't have hired that individual at
But I think that's the problem he
$50,000.
had. I think that he wanted to hire a mental health professional, and then Mercer wasn't really for that. And he's like, well, how can they tell me? Because the statute says I have to have someone like that.
Speaking of that, if you look at KRS 441-045, it talks about the cost that we have to do, the cost of providing necessary medical, dental, and psychological care for contract between the counties or the city or the county. Is that saying that as a detention center, we have to provide psychological care?
I think that's how he interpreted that.
Is that mental care? If so...
But we've always provided psychological and mental care, but it was telehealth. So it comes, remember, it's packaged in different ways. Just keep that in mind, which goes along with the purse string.
Well, that's one of his issues. And he's using the KRS 441.045 as his support to talk about that. Folks, there are, and I'm going to go back to the article that I read in the newspaper. There's some officials in Mercer County evidently that are having thoughts. Mercer officials have also complained of having to abide by decisions made by another county. Where I think we are now, Tony, is that things have arisen that has created some friction. And we need to sit down and talk about that friction and work out those. And try to do.
That was a very good start last week.
And I guess my problem is I don't like to do legislative action through the newspaper.
Well,
and I think that we had a good meeting. We had a very constructive meeting. We left it with we're going to have more meetings, and we're going to continue to talk about this. So I just think it's, we're not going to have debates through the media here.
And I understand that, but here's a mistake that I think maybe it kind of came to my mind. Mr. Dedman stayed away from that meeting so they wouldn't have a quorum. If you don't have a quorum, you don't have to have the press there, and it becomes a public meeting. I'm not too sure that showing that this is trying to be done together isn't a good thing to eliminate the headlines. Boyle County tries to walk away out of the jail agreement. If people see that you're trying to come together, and that's really what you're trying to do, that creates good press if the press people are writing it the way they should be.
And I would hope after this discussion today, that's going to come clear, certainly in our newspaper, and ideally, if we're being monitored by Mercer County, that they will see that they got their scout way ahead of the supply train on the information, and wrote a very acerbic article with an even worse headline.
Well, did you feel the same? You know, you and I talked Saturday,
Yeah.
and I said, have you read this?
I had not. I have no
And
idea that it was
you had
out
not, but you did. Did you feel the same way I did?
without question.
Okay. I thought it would bother you.
You know, as I mentioned to you yesterday, the last statement that Melwood was quoted on in
Yes.
the paper was, "We've had cordial discussions with Boyle County."
And he said relations are cordial between the two counties.
And that was
But here's
his
the
last
problem.
statement at the end of the...
Here's the problem. That should have been the headline.
I know. I agree.
It's at the bottom, and nobody gets to the bottom.
Yeah,
People
and
don't read the bottom.
That's a weekly newspaper.
There's a non-exist.
Right, so yeah, so meetings are ongoing and will continue, and I agree with your point.
We can open them up to a quorum.
I think there's some
Yeah,
things,
that might not be a
you know,
bad idea.
in marriage, every now and then, the husband and wife gunny sack some things, and you've heard that term before. I think there are some things gunny sacked between the two counties when it comes to this, and it's time to bring them out and put it on the table and
We'll
have
do it.
discussions
We'll
and
do
work
it.
it
Hey,
out.
guys,
We have-
let's open it up.
Let's
That
not
sound-
forget,
does that
we
sound
have
right,
this
Tony?
good feeling right
Yeah,
now.
and I don't want to be viewed here as denigrating anybody or criticizing any elected official. All I can tell you is, when this was created and it was functional, we viewed our role in this joint jail committee as service to Boyle County.
How many inmates were you talking about at that point, though?
Oh, gosh, 235.
Okay, so when we get back up to 400 inmates.
That's what it was built for.
It's built for 220.
But when we get back up to 400 inmates, and we don't have this warm fuzzy feeling that everything's okay at that jail, and our butts are on the line for getting sued, and we have to go back to Mercer County for agreeing to do certain things.
You still have the 3-2 if the jailers participate, under the arrangement.
I understand what you're saying, but apparently this 3-2 has not worked out in our favor all along, which is why we're having these problems.
I don't
That's
agree
a
with that.
matter of interpretation. I would tend to disagree with that assessment.
I mean, I understand you say that, you know, they pay a portion of our insurance, but I can pay Jason's, his insurance, I was wanting to, for his car or whatever.
He probably like
Ultimately,
that.
At the end of the day, he's the one gonna be sued, not, you know, not me, so.
Right.
Right.
So you're saying litigation or suit from the jail would only go to Boyle County and not
Yes.
be shared financially, but between the joint jail?
That was the major tweaking that we talked about.
They are.
I mean, that's something that needs to be written in.
Exactly.
Why would they?
Because they've been paying for the insurance premium for 20 years.
Okay, but
To cover themselves.
they're not cutting.
It would go back into the jail, though. I mean, any settlement or judgment is, I mean, that would go to the jail operations. It just wouldn't go to Mercer County's coffers, I wouldn't think. Any legal action pertaining to a jail matter.
See, like on a regional jail, if you wanted
And the
to.
authority in the joint jail committee is the actual, you know, entity that would be involved.
Actually, we have a great deal more flexibility than what statute allows, as an opinion by the Attorney General Chandler, because we are not a regional jail. And all the statutes that cite regional jail are not applicable to our specific situation.
Well, we definitely need to make that clear, and I'm glad that, you know, you said, well, that's not the intent, and, you know, that when people do get sued, you go back and look at the intent of the agreement and
Right.
testimony, like what you're saying, that'd be helpful, but, you know, just saying that kind of confuses me, you know, because original jail, when you have original jail, you know, the people involved in it, they have the right to sue and be sued, you know, in our situation, this isn't original jail, so only one person's technically getting sued, and, you know, yes, they pay insurance, but, you know, we only have so much coverage, and say that we have a settlement, we have to pay our full coverage or whatever that, who are they gonna come for the difference, you know, I don't think they'll go after Mercer, they'll come after us, so.
Well,
There's things I think that can be.
Well, I think they'll be named as a party.
I agree.
I understand that there's been other lawsuits and Mercer's, to my understanding, and I can't say that with certainty, but I understand that there have been, like, you know, if the jail ever got sued before, Mercer hasn't been named in there. I mean, they should include everybody, when I.
Well, they don't have
Why
the
not?
jailers to read the transport officer.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he's called the jailer.
By,
Is it?
because of the agreement, though.
Doesn't the
By
agreement-
definition,
I was
it's
trying to
because of
find
the
it quickly, I
agreement.
couldn't find it again, but I believe in there it says that the jailer has to bring policy to the joint jail. Is that? So doesn't
To
that
bring
take
it
away?
and seek approval are two different things legally.
Well, it's always been generally, and forgive me for speaking back, it's always been, when you say policy, I don't think there was a lot of interdiction on just staffing, operational policy. It was what costs money.
It was the financial aspect of it.
Yeah, now I just, unless I'm, you know, there could be somewhere that slipped in somewhere, I don't know. But that was not the intent of the joint jail committee. It was the actual.
But when it says the jailer has to bring policy to the joint jail, it's not saying for financial reasons, it's saying any policy is pretty much what it comes down
So
to.
that is a point that we need to tweak.
Doesn't the jailer have to bring his policy and procedure manual to the fiscal court anyway?
Okay, but that's, so he has to go through two.
Well, what it does is it goes to the joint jail, and when the joint jail approves it, then it's automatically approved.
Yeah.
That's what, that's what Tony was saying. Or,
I don't think anything's automatic in life.
well, I'm just telling you that, again, once the joint jail
There's a different
approves it, both
generation now,
counties
too.
unanimously, in the last 23 years, has typically removed,
It's
approved
it's
as
virtually
well.
perceived as a committee recommendation
Yes.
for approval.
Yeah.
Got
Which
too
the
many
court's
lawyers.
approved.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we haven't had it where one approves and one doesn't, but there could be at some point where that does happen.
Well, and I think that history should help guide you a little bit. I know there's never a certainty for anything, but usually if something was worthy and stood on its own, that group of responsible elected officials would approve it, we'd move on. Now, that's just the way things work.
Now, Tony, we got a.
Because it was a mutually beneficial thing. I'm sorry.
Judge, do you think that a third party should look at this and make a determination as to?
If there were a third party, the one I would trust the most would be the Attorney General.
Well, it's just someone with a fresh set of eyes who has no biases one way or the other and can look at it and just say, here's what you can do and here's what you can't do. And everybody maybe buy into it to try to eliminate some of this that is being said behind the scenes.
I think it'd be
Well,
good to get like Daniel Cameron's
I don't know
office.
if you
to
can
do
eliminate that or not.
No, you
If
can't.
they're
Never.
willing to do that, they're busy right now with some of the things going on.
Yeah, I understand it.
I don't know if we don't hold up discussions or.
Because Brian is quoting the Jailers Association in a lot of his comments.
I mean, I think that.
I mean, and Keiko has, I don't know, is something rich?
That might be a good idea right there.
I don't know, I'm just throwing this out.
I just have a problem where his policy has to go through another venue instead of the fiscal court. I don't really think that constitutionally. he
Maybe
should
that's
have to go-
something we can consider tweaking, that policies, if it doesn't impact a physical accountability, stops
Well-
with one court.
Let's remember that in this write-up, it is mentioned that Mercer used a lawyer to look at it, and they were happy with whatever that report was. I don't know what that report was, but
That was in 2018 or 20.
let's see.
I think it was before I was.
There was a challenge about 2001 by the jail that started out. Kohler had to file some action, and the jailer responded. It moved in the system a bit, and then I think it was abandoned. The current jailer, I think, decided to run for sheriff at that time, and then I think it was, now that's the last any question about it occurred around 2000.
I mean, you have lawyers and one will read it one way and they'll think they're right, the other one will read it the other way, they think they're right. And surely the only way to determine which one's right is you litigate, and the judge tells you, or the Supreme Court tells you.
Well, you got a bunch of lawyers
We don't
in,
want that.
you get a bunch of lawyers in, you don't know what you're coming out with.
Here's what,
Right.
I'm gonna
Everybody's
read,
gonna think
Everybody's
they're
got different opinion.
I'm gonna read this out of the newspaper article. Mercer County has also spoken with attorneys about the agreement. They assure us it's an enforceable contract, Edmund said.
My reason for being here is I just think government, we were ahead of the game. It's important now that it almost be what you look at first in terms of who you can partner with to get something done for. But there's always going to be little incremental things, nuances. But when you look at that, you should be very proud that this is a 22-year-old agreement and a partnership that lasted between two counties, numerous judges, numerous elected officials, and it actually speaks well of Boyle and Fiscal. And that's all I want to say. You can find little ways, and obviously the principles involved, if they don't want to do it as
Well, you get different jailers. How many different jailers? I'm sitting here thinking about all the different jailers
Probably
we've had.
3 in Boyle.
Yeah.
I'd say, it was a
So-
little personal thing with me, because
Yeah.
I thought it was an
But we-
incredible big step at that time. Not
We had
everything
one
was so
jailer-
applicable, I understand that.
We had one jailer
didn't-
back in, Tony. You remember the one jailer we had? These
I
guys,
remember all of them.
these guys.
There
this
was
one
a lot of pressure put on Tony that we had to do something about the facility that we were calling a jail.
Yeah.
I mean, tremendous pressure by the state. So,
I just know that none of us would want to have our authority questioned and us not be able to do what we're put here to do, and I think I can.
I don't disagree
I don't
with
think-
that.
I can understand and respect Ryan's,
I do too, but I don't think that this does that, I guess is my point. I understand, and I think he has concerns.
you're not a
with-
jailer, so.
But I don't
Submit
think that this
versus
does
approval is my comment from 20 minutes ago, and it's the same now.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, if you're in public office, and you don't think somebody can question your authority.
Oh,
I mean,
I'm well aware of that.
I can just tell you right now, I wouldn't be
But
around.
I'm well aware of that, but if we've got history where we have had policy influence, not just financial, then he has a right to be concerned, and apparently there's an issue out there, and we really need to stand behind our Boyle County jailer that keeps us out of trouble constantly.
I like his vision. I like what he's trying to do at the jail. I fully endorse and support that,
And it's the toughest job in the courthouse.
without a doubt.
I can tell you that right
his vision is a mental health, which we have all read is what's needed.
Right.
But
Absolutely.
you've got your partner fighting you.
We have to bring Mercer along to help.
Well, this all makes
the right thing.
this all makes an argument for us persuading Brian to remain on the committee, because as you characterized it to Tony, you were talking 3-2, but we don't have the 3-2 now. If
No,
in
we
fact, so we need Brian back on there.
We still have a quorum, but we don't have 3-2.
But
Or we
but
need to
if
add-
we are ever at an impasse,
We have the
then
ability,
it's
or we have the ability to add somebody that's not Brian onto it. I mean,
if that can legally be done, Chris, that's a good
But
idea.
It needs to be an elected official. It
It
can't be
needs to be.
somebody that's not elected, that's
I
the
mean, we have to
staff.
modify
Here,
it
what
because
we
it says
accomplish?
who's
Nothing.
on
Not a
it.
thing, just
But you
wasting my
lose your
time.
expertise and.
I haven't had much to eat today.
Connectivity with that facility. Yeah.
That's why we need to keep Brian on
Boyle
it.
County Jail, not
Oh,
the
yeah.
Marshall County Transport Officer, it's the Boyle County Jail.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so I think that's the key is having Brian
John, have
reconsider.
we adequately discussed the topic to your satisfaction today until we
Well,
move forward?
what I really was hoping is that we'd have this discussion, and I think we've had a good discussion. I do think that future discussions, we should have minutes taken and presented so that everybody around the table pretty much has an understanding of what's going on. I heard, this is just what I heard, is that legal action was thrown out at that meeting. And when I heard that, I thought, legal action or legal interpretation.
Yeah.
And to me, if we're working together, what we would rather have is legal interpretation opposed to legal action. It pissed me off that legal action was brought up, to tell you the truth, because that's not what we need. We need legal interpretation.
It was
Legal
in,
action because they were afraid that we were going to refuse their prisoners is what they thought.
Well,
Pressure's on them too.
It was a bad
Don't-
choice of
yeah.
words
It was a
then.
bad, it was a bad choice.
Don't let that out of your mind. Dismiss that. They have a hell of a bunch of pressure too.
let me clarify though, Judge and Jamie, I never heard those words. I heard
I didn't hear
an
that.
implication of $3.5 million. I heard an implication of we might have to do something with the
If we
divorce.
cut a drift.
Their word again, divorce, but that you can surmise what was intended, but legal action, those words never came out.
I think you brought
Or
this up,
implied.
General, and this is, I mean, I think you guys are trying your best. This is a 20-year-old contract. A lot of things have changed in 20 years. So I think now is the time, especially if we're talking about reconstruction of the jail, we're building a new one. Now's the time to fix this and to bring it up.
My term was a transitional reassessment of.
We talked about that.
An agreement.
We talked about that. That was part of the conversation.
All right, perfect. One last question. This was in my packet about the railroad bridge, but we never brought it up.
Thank you.
Wasn't in my packet.
Thanks for helping us understand
Well,
your
I've kind of felt
budget.
compelled because I
Yeah,
lived
we
through
did
it.
that.
and,
That was the trail.
In the middle of it.
That was the trail.
And I hope I honestly conveyed to you
This
what
is not the
really
trail.
happened and why we did it.
Oh, is it?
And why we turned away from
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
jail statute because it was a mess. It was an absolute mess.
All right, my apologies.
Tony, thank you.
That's where it terminates at the
So
railroad.
the only bad
Hey.
thing about coming here is I get that painful reminder how much hair I've lost.
Hey,
Not as
that's
bad
every
as
day.
Yeah.
Tony,
Thank you all.
You're still
look at
hanging.
our pictures.
Oh, I thought this was in reference to the jail over.
Thank you,
by-
Tony.
Thank you.
I make a motion we adjourn.
I think before we adjourn, is to be sure we know where we're going to, how we're gonna handle this, and maybe a plan of how we're gonna handle it, to try to get it straight, try to get worked out where we're all together again, opposed to this.
The next meeting that we have regarding this issue will be publicized in the paper, and everybody will be invited to attend that's in this room, along with Mercer's participation. So that it will be, and I'll ask Ann, as our fiscal court clerk, to take the minutes for that meeting schedule.
Will it be held here, Judge?
I think.
Yeah,
Right
they were
here is a perfect spot.
And-
Yeah, they said
They
they were
don't
gonna
have
come
this
here.
equipment for the public either.
They said they would meet us here the next time as well, so. I
Good
don't know
job,
what
John.
that's
I
been
want
set
to
for.
compliment you on bringing us the information you have.
Is that a different date you're looking at?
Thank you.
We don't know yet.
You don't know yet?
Don't know yet.
Okay.
But the joint jail will convene this Friday at 1 or 1:30 in Mercer County.
And everybody's invited to that meeting.
Yes,
So-
yes.
So
If I don't forget, I will, but.
What time?
How many
1 o'clock
matches-
or-
One or
We all show up?
Usually it's 1 o'clock is when we like.
1
to
o'clock
meet.
is what we like to
Are
do.
we having the one before the other committee that?
No, I don't take care of
It's a
that.
new
I don't have
John,
anything to
are
do
you,
with
That was Brian that ran that one too.
are you going,
Which one?
John? John, you be there?
That's called
CCC.
CCJC, yeah.
That's suspended temporarily.
Is it? Okay.
It's a brand new.
So
one.
the joint jail is moved to 1 o'clock?
Yes,
Okay.
What's it called?
in Mercer.
Mercer
I
County.
second Phil's motion. Okay.
Motion to adjourn has been seconded by Magistrate Cullen, made by Magistrate Salmon.
Yep.
Being no further discussion before the court, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
If we stand in adjourn. Thank you.